Okay, Alita Army, welcome to the Alita live stream of August the 8th, 2025, Ghost in the System, an Alita Battle Angel story part 5, where we discuss all things to do with the movie Alita Battle Angel, the source manga Gumu, and the greatly desired sequels. I knew you'd love that. And the greatly desired sequels as opposed to Gundam. So anyway, I am your host, Creek Indian, from the great state of Colorado and or near Denver, not in Denver, southwest of Denver. And with me, we have our, guest. Well, we got two guests of honor today, actually, because we don't get Maxie on here very often. But Lee from Fountain, Colorado. How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good, considering how hot it is.
Hot?
Yeah,
it's this hot of which you speak.
It's 35 degrees centigrade here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, well, I won't say it. I won't say the actual word, but down south they have a saying, it's hotter than a two-thinged billy goat. Mm. That's kind of what they say down south. But anyway, yeah, it's hot up here as well, you know, so up here in Denver. And
is it dry heat or wet heat?
It's sort of a dry heat, although we did get some rain the other day, a little bit anyway.
I can live with dry heat. It's steamy and hot that really gets me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not steamy, but it's kind of like a stagnant or kind of a oppressive heat. Is what it is. So it's really it's not like having 100 degrees and 100 degrees. Rather Fahrenheit, which is what, about 37, 38 degrees Celsius, I guess. It's not like that, but where the the temperature, or rather the humidity is 100%. It's not that, but yeah, it's pretty oppressive, when it gets hot here like that. So anyway, we also have with us Max Tack Jurai from northeast of Sydney, Australia. How's it going there, Maxie?
Morning, afternoon, and evening, folks. Being international and all, I got to get everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, getting older. It's my birthday tomorrow, so
well, getting older is better.
Got that sort of. I'm pleased because I survived another year, but I'm displeased because I'm just getting older.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say: keep having birthdays, and getting older is actually better than the alternative. So
yeah, that's what my wife said to me last night, and I went, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends on what state you're in as you're getting older.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Quality of life is important.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alita.
Well, yeah, Alita the Killing Angels out there. That's pretty good. He's wishing Maxie a HBD, which is pretty cool. And we got Finn out there. Holy moly, Finn. We don't see you usually until the very end because you mess up on the time sometimes. So anyway, there's Finn. He's out there. And a decent audience anyway. I mean, I guess we got some folks out there that are staying quiet in the chat, which is good. If you can just enjoy everything and, just kind of fly under the radar, as they would say. And Finn also wishes you a happy birthday, Maxie.
Thank you, Finn.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
When we're on the live stream tomorrow, it will be my birthday, at least in Australia, not where you guys are at. It'll be the day.
Well, because you guys, that's right, because you guys are in the future. So
that's right, we are.
So we can say, well, this is what Maxie's birthday looked like in the past, or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, so, I still scratch my head about it.
Well, I've had a few birthdays myself. I'm not really, they don't really mean much to me anymore.
Yeah,
especially when you've had over 8,000 of them, Maxie. So
Oh yes, well, yes, of course. Well, you mentioned that I don't make the stream all that often. That's because it's a one day of the week I can actually sleep in.
Yeah.
Which is often important because I don't sleep all that well anymore, as we were discussing discussing before the show started. Yeah, I can't miss out when Lee's reading if I know about it ahead of time. So I'm here.
Cool. Is
It's good to have you.
is CBD and THC legal in Australia there, Maxie?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, well, there's a form of CBD called CBN, which is really good for sleep aid, you know. So,
well, it's not so much that I can't sleep. It's that my body wakes me up because things are hurting. So it's not a case of poor sleep. It's a case of body deciding, too bad you've been lying still for too long. I'm going to make you that.
Yeah. Well, I think CBD though kind of helps with a little bit of that pain situation. You know, it might help you. Anyway, I don't know if it's legal there in Australia or not. So, you know, you maybe check that out. But because I know here in Colorado you can get CBD and THC in most counties anyway. So I can't do THC because if I do and I get, you know, drug tested, I'll be kicked out of the powerlifting association. So, you know, I have to kind of, I can't really do that stuff. So, you know, but back in my youth. So anyway, well, I just want to remind folks, we got the LA Fires fundraiser still going on. All the money has been sent to the Greater Good charity. They haven't reimbursed me all the money yet, but that's okay. You know, I think they still owe me $143 or something like that, you know, because I've already sent it to them. And of course, some of that money, I guess, you know, I put in there, but I've also sent that. So, you know, it's a net or a minus 123 because I have sent the money, you know, to the Greater Good charities, and we want to help these folks out because, you know, it's horrible, you know, to have your house destroyed by fire like that. And I think mostly the community that got hit the hardest, I think, was Pacific Palisades there near LA. So, you know, that's I think something like 2,000 homes were destroyed or something. But I don't know where they are in the recovery now. They certainly have come a long ways, but, you know, still we're keeping this up, you know, just so they can, if there's any lingering or, you know, any kind of residual, you know, money that they need. Now, $1,500 is not a lot, but, you know, hey, every little bit helps, as they would say. So anyway, the link you see below the image there on the screen is also down in the description, and you can click on that. It takes you to the website. You can specify that your donation be anonymous if you want, or you can put your name in there like I have and like my compadre Angelus has. You know, he seems to want to put like $99 little increments in there, and I wonder why he does that. So anyway, yeah. But and then of course Vladi's put some money in there as well, and he uses his internet handle. He doesn't use his name, so you don't have to use your name if you're a little bit concerned about your name being out on the internet. That's fine. That's certainly understandable, you know. So, but you know, please give to this if you got any spare money. You know, no amounts too small, and we'll send that immediately, you know, to the Greater Good charities. And we seem to have lost 2 signatures somehow. I checked on it just before the stream, and it was, or 3 signatures actually, 496, and you know, now it's down to 493. Now I did put $200 in here to kind of get it kick-started again. So you know, that'll help a little bit. And if you want to donate to it, you can as well. But there's no requirement for that. You see the link below the image on the screen there? That's also down in the description. You can click on that, takes you to the website. You do have to sign your name or put your name and email into the 2 text boxes that you see there. Now you can specify this to be anonymous as well, so you don't have to, you know, put your name and email address out for everybody on the internet to see. But if you haven't signed the petition, please do so. You know, this kind of helps us remind Disney that we want more Alita movies. You know, I know the Creek wants a minimum of 6. You know, that's what I want. And I think, Lee, you said 9 last week, didn't you?
3 trilogies, yep.
Yes, I would be good with that. That's fine, you know. So I definitely would be good with that. And
any advance on 3 trilogies? 3 trilogies going once, going twice. Sold to the man in the combat uniform.
That's right. That's it. And of course, I want Rosa to play Alita in every single one of them. Of course, I do. And of course, as I say at the end of every stream, I want El Lamont in here as well. You know, at least in Alita 2. You know, because that'll be the motorball arc. And you know, we want these sequels. You know, we're never going to give up. We're always going to keep doing this. And this has become the Creek's credo, you know, because I know a lot of folks are really kind of bashing their heads against the wall. Why don't we have a sequel yet? Why don't we have a sequel yet? And this is what I think.
No cause is lost, if there was but one fool left to fight for it.
And of course, if I'm the last person standing, I will still be doing this for the sequels, which I don't think I will be, because folks like Maxie and Angelus and Lottie and others, you know, and Lee, you know, we're all fighting for that sequel. It's a team effort. So, you know, we definitely want to keep Alita current, you know, and this is a good way to do it. Here's one of the many ways you can do it. And we've had streams on the past about other ways, but certainly if you haven't signed the petition, please do so. And, you know, we'll keep bumping those numbers up. We do have Rosa's Queen Studios bust of Alita, you know, and it's still in the box. It's in my house. It's sitting there. She knows that I have it and she wants it. So, you know, it's just a matter of the timing being right. You know, when they green light the sequel, that's probably when we'll get it to her. But it's her call. You know, we're patient in that regard. We're not trying to force anything here. You know. So, you know, this is not a gift from the Alita Army. It's certainly not a gift from the Creek, because I didn't buy the whole thing. I mean, I put some money in it, but I didn't buy the whole thing of Alita. This is because of the Alita Army. You know, this is a gift from us, but it's not a gift. I'm sorry. It is actually an expression from us for our admiration, our appreciation, and affection for our Queen Rosa, because she is a superb actor. And we want her to have this. We were so lucky to have Rosa portray Alita. And you know, as we say always, you know, Rosa is Alita and Alita is Rosa. You know, and that's how everybody in the Alita Army feels about Rosa. We love her to death, and we want her in that sequel, and we want her to have this bust. So as soon as the stars are aligned, that's when we'll get it to her. And she lets us know. We also got the Alita Gaming Network. And of course, we put, you know, there's all kinds of fun things. I didn't check it, but one time this week, because we just wrapped up a consulting gig that I've been working on. And I know I was just telling Lee, you know, how it was neat to have finally wrapped that thing up. But anyway, you know, if you do live streaming yourself, like Chaos Nova does some live streams, you can put that in the link there in the live streams channel. I know Maxie actually puts the link for Radio Chaos into the network, and from time to time I'll put the link for the Alita live stream in there in the live streams channel. And you can do the same thing. You know, you don't have to ask my permission or Matu's permission to put a link in there for your live stream. You know, you can, if you're doing that, then certainly we're good with it. We have text channels. Certainly you can, if you do like fanfics, like Lee's fanfics, the one he's going to be reading from today, as a matter of fact, there's a link in the fan fiction channel there that you can go read all of Lee's, fanfic. I think you're up to 30 chapters now, aren't you, Lee?
Yep, still working on 30.
Yeah. Still working on 30. The Creek is about 1/3 the way through chapter 25. So, you know, I just was able to pick that up this morning, and started reading it. So, you know, again,
come on, chapter 30. I'm waiting for new content.
Yeah, that's right. See, he sounds a lot like It's like I did when Maxie, you know, years ago when he only had 11 chapters on his fanfic. Come on, Maxie, give me that chapter 12 or whatever. Now I think you do have a chapter 12, don't you, Maxie?
I have the first third of chapter 12.
Yeah, and now he can bug me about not reading them yet because I haven't. So anyway, but you know, that's you know, I got my fanfic in there. Now my fanfic is nothing like Lee's or Maxie's. You know, theirs are really polished. You know, mine's a short. I mean, it's enjoyable, but you know, I don't claim to be an author. That's for sure. And I think Channel does not exist. She has a fanfic in there.
Oh, she's got a whole lot of stuff
yeah,
she's written.
Yes,
Quite a few
yes.
little one shots too that are kind of interesting.
Yeah, some shorts. Yeah, are in the fan fiction channel for sure. If you do artwork or videos, you can upload those to the user creations channel. We want those to be Alita related, of course. But if you have something that's not Alita related, or say maybe very loosely Alita related, you can put that in the off-topic channel. We have 3 voice channels that you can get on there and chat with other folks, you know, that are in the network. And you don't need my permission to use any of the voice channels. You can just get on one, just find one that's empty, and you know, just get on there and invite anybody else you have, friends that you have on the network, you know, that might want to show up and maybe just chat with you. And we got a watch party channel now. I haven't done a watch party for a while. I was out of town for a little while, and you know, of course, competed in the bench press nationals, so I couldn't do it then either. But you know, if you want to do a watch party, you can. You don't need my permission to do it, or Matu's. You can just get in there and, you know, do your watch party and just have fun with it. You know, you can sort of promote it or let other people on the network know by posting, you know, the announcement and watch party text. And then folks will see that there's a new message in there, and then they can go look at it and say, oh, there's a watch party going to occur, you know, tomorrow or day after or something like that. So now we will get, I know I want to do watch parties again. I just kind of been tied up with this one project I'm working on. And once I get way past that, of course, I was just telling Lee pre-stream that we picked up another client. So, you know, that'll probably, you know, kind of, you know, tie up some of my time, but you know, hopefully I'll, you know, still be able to do some more Alita related stuff. You know, I mean, my three videos a week kind of suffered there for about 2 or 3 weeks since we were wrapping up this one project. But you know, certainly I love doing watch parties as well. I guess the link you see below our little Chibi Alita mascot there, below her, that link is down in the description. You click on it and you'll get an invite. You can come into the network, and you don't need our approval either. You know, Matu and I do watch it. You know, we watch the network to make sure nothing inappropriate or untoward gets in there. But you know, we haven't had any problem like that. So you know, it's really if I was to get paid for doing this, it'd be stealing. So because there's nothing to do really. So last I checked, and this was last week, this is pretty small. It's only 46 members. It was as of last week. And the folks in the network kind of like that. It's really intimate. You know, it's small and everybody can, you know, it's kind of a, you know, it's more readily communicable to others on the network. All you need is a Discord username, and those are free if you get the basic Discord subscription. And you don't need to pay any money to join the Alita Gaming Network either. It's absolutely free. We don't make, Maxie or I or Lee or Vangelis or none of us, we don't make money off of this. This is a labor of love for us. You know, it's something we just enjoy doing because we love keeping Alita current. And with that, you guys got anything you want to add to anything I said about this or the previous slides?
No, I think you've got it down pat these days, Cricky.
Yeah, because we do this on Radio Chaos too, don't we?
That's right, twice a week.
Yeah, so you know, that's the extent of the promotion here, you know. So yeah. Okay, moving on. I guess Lee, you demand, as they would say.
All right. Let's see here. Go ahead and bring up Well, actually,
Yes,
let's
Finn.
a quick.
Everybody would like a watch party with Alita 2. That would mean they have actually made it.
That's exactly right.
Well, a quick recap of Chapter 10, the last episode, where
Come on, Lee. You've got to do it properly. You'll remember last time.
Yeah, put your
I'm
radio
trying to-
voice on, Lee.
I was trying to do that. I don't think I'm very good at that. But yeah, last episode, our hero had, let's see, sat out a motorball game with Gerhad, and his depression drove him to isolate himself while they were having fun downstairs after her Alita's latest win. And so there was also the discussion of going out to the site of Jason's arrival. So in this chapter, they begin going into the planning stages for that.
Oh, right. They're still in doubt mode.
Yes, because the idea of Jason being some kind of time traveler is a little out there.
Out there. Yeah.
All right, so Chapter 11, Smuggler's Run. After reminding me of last night's talk, Gerhad convinces me to come along on a quick shopping trip out into the neighborhood. It's a nightmare. The almost unbearable pressure, the constant screaming of nerves is a relentless certainty that an attack is going to come from anywhere at any second stays with me the entire time. Head swimming from the exhausting effort of trying to keep track of everything around me, a constant disorienting dizziness. Hounded by this constant, vague certainty that something terrible will happen. Instead of being impatient and annoyed with me, as I'd expected, Gerhad surprises me with her patience and support during the outing. To help me keep my mind off my anxiety, she talks to me almost continually. My ability to follow the conversation is spotty at best, but I do take one opportunity to mention the crowds in the streets last night watching the games. As we're weaving in and around the surprisingly light foot traffic, I remark, I figured most people would be indoors watching the game, considering what I've heard the streets are like at night. Well, she says, if they have the ability to watch at home, they usually will. She's visibly pleased that I'm actually conversing. For a lot of people, these view screens, she gestures to the monitors mounted at intervals along the sides of the buildings, are the only chance they'll get to watch their favorites compete. Quite a few people will even band together as fans of this team or that paladin in order to minimize the risks involved. It's one of the few times people in this city are willing to look out for one another. Of course, then you run the risk that fans of opposing teams or players will start brawling with each other. She pauses to stop in front of a small shop to peruse some minor medical supplies that the clinic is running low on. After making a few quick purchases, she takes us back onto the sidewalk and continues. A lot of Alita's fans are going to be rather disappointed tonight, however. Oh, why's that? She comes to a sudden stop that catches me off guard and looks down at me in mild surprise. Offhandedly, she comments, "You really are pretty clueless about the game, aren't you?" She seems genuinely surprised at the extent of my ignorance. Having no response, I silently shrug at her. Resuming our walk, she elaborates, "Last night was supposed to be the first of a set of 3 matchups. There's usually 2 such matches for each of the 3 leagues every month. Whoever scores the highest at the end of the month gets to go on to next month's round of games." In an unexpected bout of clear-headedness, realization dawns on me. But Alita's team smashed the competition so hard that they can't continue. So Alita and her team won't be scheduled for the next 2 nights? Smiling pleasantly, she nods. Right. So her fans won't get to see her compete, which is going to leave a lot of her more rabid fans very unhappy. And she has a lot of rabid fans. However, Ito and the team's mechanics will get to use the time to stockpile some additional parts and equipment. I'm pleasantly surprised to find that I'm enjoying myself during our talk. For just a brief moment, my depression seems far away and I feel almost normal. Sadly, it doesn't last, and that momentary respite is over all too quickly. My focus fractures, thoughts fragment, my ability to concentrate suffers. During one particularly frustrating episode, I have to repeatedly ask Gerhard how to complete relatively simple tasks. It's embarrassing. And I'm immensely glad that Gerhard is tasked as my supervisor instead of Ito, whom I am distressingly hesitant to approach with any of this. Under any other circumstances, I would have needed, at most, one repeat of the instructions just to be sure I had it right. One of the more frustrating symptoms, for me at least, is this constant doubt in my own memory. I am continually convinced I misheard something or am recalling information incorrectly. The frustration and anger eat at me, knowing what's happening but being powerless to fight it off. My ability to concentrate and comprehend degrade even further as I become more convinced that I am simply incapable of doing anything right. No amount of sleep is enough to banish the exhausted feeling that clings to me every minute of the day. If it weren't for the fact that I need to help just to shower, I'd have stopped bothering with it. Bothering as it becomes less and less important next to the seemingly Herculean task of just keeping up with everyone else. Since I require help for so much, and Gerhard is usually the one to take up that task, she continues to remind me, very insistently if need be, to keep on top of personal hygiene. Dull panic and gnawing guilt are a constant plague, and I begin eating less and less, to the growing concern of Ito and Gerhard. It's an uphill fight to hold myself together, as I'm often on the verge of breaking down in tears for no discernible reason. After a certain point, I lose track of how bad it's gotten until I end up overhearing Ito and Alita discussing me. I'm sitting at the kitchen table drinking down a pot's worth of coffee in the vain hope that the caffeine influx will somehow counter the constant weariness and maybe restore some level of focus to a mind too scattered to think straight. Their voices drift in from where they're talking, just out of sight somewhere in the other room. "Has he been in any trouble?" I hear her ask quietly. I have to strain a little to make out what's being said. "No," is Ito's faint reply. "Quite the opposite, actually. He's becoming more passive, eating less, isolating himself more. He does anything we ask without complaint, but he's having difficulty remembering even little things, and he's struggling with tasks he had no trouble with earlier." Short pause, and Alita comments, "He's even looking older. He's so different, almost like he's a different person. There's nothing that can snap him out of this?" Considering what he's told us about past experience with this, I am reasonably certain that he was being truthful concerning his undergoing long-term treatment. So I doubt there's anything that will snap him out of it. In a gently admonishing tone, "There's a reason it's called mental illness and mental inconvenience, sweetheart." Soft exhalation and a quiet sigh. If he continues to decline at this rate, he could end up slipping into a suicidal state in a matter of weeks, maybe sooner. All I can do is wait and see and hope. There's a noticeable pause. "With all your practice games and other business you have to concentrate on, maybe you should look at staying with Kiyomi for now. There's no reason you should be dragged into dealing with this." Adamantly, she replies, "You and Gerhard are already stretching yourselves thin as it is. I'm perfectly capable of dealing with everything else and helping the two of you." I lose focus on the rest of their conversation as that venomous whisper fills my head. Stretched thin, overworked, dealing with so much already, and now burdened with you. You seem to be a source of so much trouble. Isn't it time you did something to fix that? No response comes to mind. No pushback against the warped thoughts filling my head. My gaze falls to the coffee cup in my hand. A little reflection of me floating on the surface of the liquid within stares back. An unremarkable, worn face. Surely the absence of that face wouldn't have any significant effect on the world. In fact, wouldn't things be better for Ito's clinic if that face simply disappeared? 53 years, I think to myself. Maybe that's long enough. A drawn-out sigh, and my gaze lifts up to slowly slide about the room. A memory of Gerhard's story from a few nights ago comes to me, about Alita nearly dying to some monster. Though hard to imagine, my mind conjures images of Alita shattered and broken, yet still finding a way to strike out at her attacker and hurt him. There's a flicker of resistance. No, I can hold on for a little longer. They're trying to help, so I should try to meet them halfway at least. Even so, it does occur to me that should something happen to me, Ito would get his cybernetics back. They aren't doing much good on me anyway, and there's got to be someone out there more in need of them. My internal debate is interrupted by Gerhard lightly putting a hand on my shoulder. I look up at her vacantly. Ready to get back to it? She asks encouragingly. I nod and drain the lukewarm coffee in my cup before heading back into the clinic proper with her. Throughout this ordeal, Guido and Gerhard haven't demanded perfection from me, nor have they demanded that I stop screwing up. All they seem to want is for me to do something. It hasn't mattered that I keep messing up even the simplest tasks, or that it takes me twice as long because I have to go back over what I just did to address the many mistakes I make. They have demanded only that I stay active and engaged in the world around me as much as possible. Just as importantly, they've been patient and supportive while doing so. It may be about the only thing that is keeping me sane right now. When the end of the day finally arrives, I turn in early right after dinner. On some level, I rationalize that if I'm less active, I'm less trouble to everyone else. The very next morning, as I'm sitting staring into my barely eaten breakfast, Ito informs me that he'd like to try something new. I think, he says slowly, clasping his hands on the table in front of him, it may be time to look at some form of medication. If you're feeling up to it, I have one in mind that I've been working on. So far, it looks promising and seems like a safe bet. Would you be up to giving it a try? Well, I vocalize, an attempt to kickstart my brain into working, to force speech out. Yeah, that's, I squeeze my eyes shut, desperately fighting against the mind that's trying to shut down, trying to get some kind of response together. That's probably not a bad idea. I open my eyes and look over at him. If you really think it'll work. Beneath the tired and dull exterior, I am becoming desperate for something, anything that might help. I no longer really care how dangerous it might be. Fortunately, Ito still seems concerned with how risky a given solution might be. With a serious look, he shrugs lightly. I think it has at least a chance of working. I glance furtively over at Alita, who sits silently watching, though her expression seems vaguely encouraging. I give a half-hearted nod. Yeah, let's give it a try. Thinking is like wading through hip-deep mud. It feels like I'm being sucked under by it. The act of just being feels like a suffocating mess. After breakfast, with Alita accompanying us, Ito takes me into the clinic and goes over the medication he wants to try on me. Possible side effects, dosage, and whatnot. None of it sounds particularly troublesome. The only daily treatments, he says, while holding up the tiny bottle with this new drug in it. It's actually derived from a drug I cooked up for Alita and her teammates to use during games. It accelerates their neural activity, helping them to form a closer link with their motorball bodies, increasing their performance. It's also non-addictive. I nod blankly at him, with a glance at Alita hovering nearby. I had no idea that drugs were used in such a way in the sport, and I suspect just about all the other players use something similar in order to stay competitive. The thought runs through my head. Apparently, drug use isn't just rampant in Motorball, it's practically mandatory. This particular version, Ito explains, has been modified in a way that I hope will help stabilize your brain chemistry, while also being the least likely to cause you any problems. I notice my old field jacket hanging nearby. After he's finished explaining that it'll take a few days at least for the meds to really have any effect, I ask about it. Gesturing towards the jacket, I listlessly mention, I thought you had to throw my old clothes out. Ito glances at it. Oh, you were already halfway out of it when you were brought in, so there is no need to cut it away. Loretta did that while getting a tourniquet on your severed arm. He prepares a syringe with a minuscule amount of liquid in it and motions for me to extend my arm. I was running some scans on it and some of your other things last night after you went to bed. I just wanted to check something out. Extending my arm to him, I ask, so, did you find anything new? He quickly gives me the shot, disposes of the needle, and folds his hands over one knee. A little bit, actually. Like your other items, it doesn't show up on my scanners, including the parts that should be clearly visible, such as the snaps in the zipper. I've noticed this is the case with anything you use regularly. Your wallet and a few other little odds and ends that you haven't carried with you show no signs of this invisibility, for lack of a better term. Oddly enough, it's only your razor and smartphone that are still exhibiting this effect, despite you having kept them in the footlocker for so long. The only difference between those two items are the electrical wiring and electronics. While I recognize that this is probably important information, my mind refuses to work through it, so I just nod silently. It's as if this effect can wear off, Alita observes with a meaningful look at me. I nod blankly, oblivious to her attempt to engage me in conversation. The two of them glance at each other. After a moment's silence, Ida remarks with a note of encouragement. Incidentally, we do still have your boots as well. They're in the basement, cleaned and waiting for you when you need them. My only reaction is to nod expressionlessly. Those boots could be waiting a very long time. Or hell, they may even end up with a new owner. A pity. Those were an extra pair of combat boots that I'd gotten just before leaving the Air Force. They're good boots. After all that, Gerhard arrives and Ito opens the clinic. Alita bids them goodbye, then stops by me on her way out as I'm getting ready to sort some parts that Ito scavenged yesterday out of the scrap heap. Hey, she says softly. With a confused glance around, unsure of what she could want, I quietly respond, yes. The corners of her mouth are drawn up in a smile, sincere warmth in her eyes and voice as the fingertips of one hand lightly touch my shoulder. Hope you're feeling better soon. Hang in there, all right? Life had become so empty and isolating that it's a wholly unexpected gesture. There's a surprise at feeling a genuine smile on my lips as I say to her, thanks, I will. Then she's gone out the door, off to do whatever it is Martian cyborg motorball players do in their spare time. It isn't until she's gone that I realize I'd had no reaction to her physical contact. Either I am that numbed by depression, or maybe I'm finally getting better about dealing with cyborgs. Later on that evening, after the clinic is closed, Ito informs me that there's going to be a little get-together. They want to discuss a possible plan for getting me through the gate. We're gathered in the living room when Kiyomi comes in, followed by Alita. Quick greetings are exchanged and everyone finds a place to sit. Alita, Ito, and Gerhard on the couch, and Kiyomi on the chair next to me. Her hair is now done up in a neat set of thin braids that trail down her back to stop between her shoulder blades. Kiyomi leans towards me in her seat, hand outstretched with a little envelope in it. Here, this is yours. My gaze drops to look down at the offered item. Hesitantly reaching for it, I ask, what is it? With a cheerful lilt in her voice, she says, it's your new ID. Just got it. Dully, I look over the sealed envelope. Biting into one end, I tear the thick paper. From Kiyomi's expression, I suspect she's mildly embarrassed that she didn't think to open it for me. I ignore her discomfort, minor as it is, and pour the credit card-sized object onto my lap. Laying aside the envelope, I gather up the ID card. Visually, it's little more than a black plastic frame around a stiff but flexible, transparent pane, altogether thinner than a credit card. Within the pane, either some kind of glass or plastic, I can't tell, is a holographic image of my face, some basic information, and a number of symbols that are probably some sort of electronic code, all forged, and hopefully really good forgeries. Despite the sudden onset of misgivings about carrying a forged ID, I look around at the gathering. Thanks, I say, feeling that my thanks is far too little. Not really sure who all was involved, but thank you. Welcome to Iron City, citizen, Kiyomi intones with mock seriousness. Though smiling at Kiyomi's remark, Alita says in a more sober voice, "You'll want to keep that on you, but don't show it unless you absolutely have to." I nod and tuck my new ID away under my thigh. Kiyomi then launches into discussing another illegal act, smuggling me out of and back into Iron City. So, she says enthusiastically, from the looks of it, we've got a couple of options. The first is also the most straightforward. Visual inspections the guards do aren't usually much more than cursory. Probably more for show than anything else, Alita explains with a look in my direction. Like Ito's theorized in the past, likely instituted by some bureaucrat somewhere to make a show of something being done about the attack on the factory. With a nod and a rather wicked smile at Alita, Kiyomi goes on. Yep. In actuality, they usually just do what they did before, which is rely on the Centurion's penetrating scans. Normally, that's all they need. However, she shifts her gaze towards me. With Jason's strange stealth feature, we might be able to slip him right past. No fuss, no muss. She returns her attention towards the others. In short, we put Jason in a box, stack some stuff on top of it that those guards won't want to bother moving, and just drive right through the gate. I blink at her, the content of her words penetrating my mental fog. My frazzled brain rattles off a quick translation. We'll stick Weirdo here in a box, stick that box in under another box, and waltz right past the six-legged, tank-like killer robots with the heavy caliber machine guns. What could possibly go wrong? Loudly clearing my throat to get Kiyomi's attention, I ask, "Okay, so what was the other option?" Kiyomi gestures to Alita, handing the question off to her. Alita quickly explains. There's a whole bunch of old tunnels under the city, a select few of which lead outside of the walls to the west. These particular tunnels are very dangerous to travel, almost impossible to find and easy to get lost in, unless you know what you're looking for. We got in contact with someone who can guide us for a price. Sure, it's in almost the opposite direction of where we want to go, but it gets us safely outside. All right, so those are our options, Ito comments thoughtfully. As I'd suspected, simply hiding Jason as we pass through the gate should work. I'd like to do some specific tests first, however. I want to be certain that a Centurion sensors won't be able to pick him up. If so, I'd say the simplest plan may be the best one. And if we have to go with the other option, Alita remarks to Ito, Kiyomi can drive you out in the van while I carry Jason through those tunnels. I've already set aside the money for the guide. Adrenaline spikes as the realization hits me of the risk these people are taking. I feel a tendril of fear at the thought of what could happen if this doesn't work. Hold on a moment, I say, a bit more loudly than I intended. The others turn to me and I continue. Should we really do this? I mean, if there's a chance one of you could get hurt or killed doing this. Alita regards me with an intense look. This isn't just about getting your cybernetics working. This trip could answer a lot of questions. Her expression becomes slightly guarded. Don't you want to know what's going on with all this? Well, yes, I answer, unsure at first. Then my eyebrows come down over my eyes as anger flares to life, and my voice hardens. But is that really a good reason to put yourselves at risk like this? The consequences seem pretty damn serious for everyone. My depression is pushed aside, eclipsed for the moment by concern and even fear at the thought that someone here could end up seriously hurt or even killed, all because of me. It should be fine, Jason, Ito calmly assures me. If you don't show up on this test, then the Centurions won't see you either, which means there will be no reason for them to bother us. In a confident, determined tone, Alita says to me, and if it turns out that we'll have to use the tunnels, I'm perfectly capable of taking care of both of us. Either way, I'll be there to deal with any trouble. Her voice takes on a harder edge. If necessary, that includes any Centurions now that I'm back in this body. I blink at her, momentarily confused by what she means by back in this body. What other body would she be in outside of the motorball arena? Leaning back in the wheelchair, I sigh heavily. It's obvious they intended to go through with this, for which I find myself with mixed feelings. The possibility of uncovering what's happening to me provides a powerful motive to go along, to say nothing of getting to walk again. We appreciate you being concerned for us, but it's been decided, Alita says with a determined look. We need to find out what's going on here. Unless you've decided that you don't want to do this? Meeting her gaze, I sigh wearily. No, nothing like that. The unforgiving nature of Iron City presses in on me. It's just that you're going to put all this time and resource into this little venture, and we may not even find anything of any value when we get out there. That is another risk, Ito admits. But there's really only one way to find out. Now, let's get this test done, shall we? Seeing that they are far more optimistic about this endeavor than I am, I relent. Ito and Gerhard begin setting up some sort of device that I assume to be a scanning system. This thing's new, I take it? I inquire with a gesture at the object in question. It's not something I've seen around the clinic. I got it on loan from a colleague, Ito says, while putting the last connections in place. Unlike my medical scanners, it's closer to the kind of system used by the Centurions. Not exact, mind you, but definitely close enough for our purposes. When completed, it's about the size of a couple toasters put together, sitting on a stand at about head height. I'm then instructed to position myself on a spot in front of it. Clapping his hands together a couple times as if dusting them off, Ito explains a little further. The systems the Centurions use are designed to search for objects, as opposed to diagnosing problems with delicate cybernetic systems or a human body. They're capable of looking into just about any part of a vehicle to detect hidden passengers, contraband, what have you. They can penetrate quite a bit of most any known material and are accurate out to about 3.5, maybe 4 meters. He pulls the stand back a bit until it's about 2.5 meters away from me, then slides it several centimeters closer. They'll be about this far away, he mutters as he gives it a final adjustment to zero it in on me. Having completed the last adjustments, he starts it up and directs our attention to one of the monitors. On it is shown a ghostly, almost X-ray view of the wheelchair I'm in, and the blurred, seemingly out-of-focus image of my arm implant and glasses, both of which are floating disembodied in the air in what would be their respective positions upon a human body that isn't there. Laying on the seat of the wheelchair, right where I tucked it under my thigh, is the ghostly image of my new ID. As Ito is checking the controls on the scanner, it's Gerhard who's first to notice something's off. Why aren't his leg implants showing up? She asks in a puzzled voice. Ito immediately stops what he's doing and looks at the screen. Then at me, the intensity of his gaze making him seem a little intimidating. I'll be damned, he mutters loudly. I can't believe I missed that. More clearly, he continues. Every time I did checks on one of Jason's leg implants, I would have him roll up his pants leg so I could hook up the diagnostic equipment. So his implants were always exposed. It never occurred to me that he trails off, a look of sudden realization crossing his features. He directs an intense gaze in my direction. Jason, you've had those clothes for a while, haven't you? Glancing down at my work pants and dark blue t-shirt, I answer. Yeah, ever since I was working at the Sheffields. Realization finally dawns on me. Wait a minute, are you telling me my pants are blocking the scanner? Rubbing his chin thoughtfully, he says to me. Cloth normally doesn't affect the scan. It just wouldn't show up. I think this could indicate that the effect doesn't just fade, but it can spread to any object that you've had prolonged physical contact with. The scanners are still detecting the seat of the wheelchair, Gerhard observes. She points to the image of my new ID tucked under my thigh. And his ID card is still visible, even though he's sitting right on it. Ito nods slowly. So he's not casting a sensor shadow, which would mean that he may not be blocking the scanner's energy, at least not in the way that I'd have thought. But if that were the case, he trails off with a mystified expression. Rubbing at his lower lip with an index finger, he quietly comments, Damned peculiar. That's so weird, Kiyomi quietly remarks, her voice sounding a little spooked. It's like you're some kind of ghost, she says, with a wide-eyed glance at me. Feeling particularly unsettled by what I'm seeing, I keep silent. Alita steps towards Ito and puts a hand on his shoulder to get his attention. asking in a quiet, concerned tone, "What does this mean for his cybernetics? Does it mean he'll never be able to use them?" Ito releases a quick sigh. "I couldn't begin to guess. This is just..." He suddenly breaks off and looks over at where my jacket is hanging. "I have a few ideas, however." Thus begins a quick series of seemingly off-the-wall tests. He has me hold items while keeping my hand flat, palm up, cupping my hand around small items to cover them. He puts little electronic transmitters in my pockets, that sort of thing. The results are startling. Though certainly still concerned for my well-being, Ito seems more excited than I've ever seen him. At one point, Ito has Gerhard retrieve my boots and puts them under the scanners. As with everything else I've used regularly up to now, they don't show up at all. After maybe an hour or so, he finishes the last test, some of them having been repeated to verify results, and sits down to go over what's been learned. Referring to notes he's made on a digital pad, Ito's voice takes on the quality of a professor doing a lecture. "So, the shirt you've had with you since you've arrived at the farm, the pants are from a small shop in the city, purchased shortly after beginning work for Henry. Both are items that have been in your possession for about a year, give or take. Everything you're wearing, excluding your glasses, which were made in the clinic, aren't showing up on any imaging systems we've used. Anything you hold in your hand remains visible until a little over 2/3 of it, give or take, is covered up. Same as when you wrapped your shirt over something. The little transmitters I had you hold and put in your pockets show the same thing, with the signals they emit being blocked as well." He curls the fingers of one hand over his chin as he stares down at the pad. "But simply putting you in between an object and the scanners doesn't block the scanner from seeing the object behind you." The hand over his chin comes down to tap the screen of the pad with an index finger. "You showed up clearly on thermal imaging, tried infrared, ultraviolet. You showed up on all that." He trails off as if lost in thought. Gerhard glances over at me. "X-rays, magnetic resonance, everything else just acts like he doesn't exist. Though there's no overt sign of threat, it's as if a cold wind passes over me, a feeling of dread." Gaze downcast, I ask aloud, "This, whatever it is, it's not dangerous, is it?" A terrible thought occurs to me. If I'm somehow a danger to the people around me, are they going to have to get rid of me? I can't bring myself to even entertain the thought lurking at the edges of my mind that they'd have to kill me. Looking up from his musings, Ito's eyebrows go up as he frowns slightly at me. "We've already established that this anomaly isn't harming you." The dryness in my throat forces me to swallow. "I don't mean like that." Nervously, I glance around at them, somewhat wide-eyed. "I mean, if it's spreading to my clothes and stuff, is it dangerous to other people?" I notice a sudden alarmed look from Kiyomi as she takes a half-step back from me. I find it an understandable reaction. "You worked in close proximity to other people for quite some time," Ito says reassuringly. "You slept in the same small room with a roommate. I haven't seen anything to indicate you're somehow a danger to others. Consider also," Gerhard adds in a comforting tone of voice, "the only things this effect is transferred onto are inanimate objects that have been in direct contact with you for quite a while." I force myself to take a deep breath and actually manage to relax a bit. "Yeah, I guess you're right. Of course they are," Alita says firmly. "There's no indication that you're any kind of danger to us or anyone else." She looks over at Ito. "Maybe you should look over that data later. We know Jason's not going to be visible Centurions, and that's what we needed to know for now." With a tired sigh, Ito tosses the pad aside and rubs at his eyes. "Yes, you're right." He takes a deep breath and looks at me. "I'd still like to make a couple more checks with that scanner, just to be sure." We all agree, and Ito makes some adjustments, altering the scan in subtle ways. It doesn't take more than a couple minutes. Throughout it all, the results remain the same. Finally, he completes the last scan. "There, that's every variation I can think of, and no sign of Jason." More directly to me, "You shouldn't have to stay hidden for long, just long enough for you to get to the gate each way. Do you have a problem with enclosed spaces?" Though I've never really had too much trouble with small spaces, I decide to err on the safer side, just in case. After all, this is pretty important. Last thing we need is me somehow screwing everything up. Well, a little bit, I tell him. Ito nods slowly, rubbing his chin as he thinks. All right, then we should probably give you a mild sedative so you can remain in a relaxed state. While you shouldn't have to remain hidden for long, it might be best to play it safe. I nod silently. Maybe a small oxygen tank as well, Gerhard suggests. Ito nods, then turns to me. Remember, keep your glasses and everything else inside a pocket or inside your jacket until we let you out. If anything is so much as slightly visible, it may be picked up by their sensors, regardless of the results of my own tests. Got it? Absolutely, I reply with a firm nod. I make a mental note to make sure everything I won't need is left in my footlocker before going to sleep, just in case I forget in the morning. When we sit down to dinner, there's more discussion over details of our little smuggling operation. While air shouldn't be a problem, Gerhard and Ito both decide to play it safe and provide a small air tank for when I'm in the steamer trunk-sized cargo container they picked out. As Alita has a practice game scheduled for tomorrow, it's decided that the day after will be when we make the trip. Once that's out of the way, talk turns to what we just saw during Ito's tests. Speculation flies, but that's all any of it is. Despite the nebulous fears that attempt to take root, I try to be optimistic. The effort is a spectacular failure. Most of the next day passes in a kind of unreality. I'm far more alert, and I can even focus on tasks, but it's all like disconnected from me. There's a strange insulating distance from everything around me, as if the world can't touch me. I can recognize something as being funny or sad or even hurtful, but none of it actually impinges upon me personally. It's like watching the world go by on a video screen that I'm only half paying attention to. Even my own emotions are muted and distant. When evening comes and Ito closes down the clinic, Alita and Kiyomi arrive, exchanging pleasantries with Gerhard as she passes them on her way home. Alita returning from her practice session, and Kiyomi from a day of scavenging for parts to sell for her little salvaging operation. After some settling in, Ito and Kiyomi set up the crate I'll be hidden in. Alita approaches me with a harness-like rig. Here, she says, holding the harness up for me to see. We need to get this fitted to you. After staring at it blankly for a couple seconds, I look up at her and ask, what's that for? She puts a hand on her hip, so I can carry you on my back. Frowning deeply, I glance down at the harness back up at her. Want to run that by me again there, Sparky? My pride balks at the idea of being carried piggyback, and an insulating distance between me and the world starts breaking down. With a hint of exasperation, she replies, We can't take your wheelchair where we're going, and I'm the only one with the strength and endurance to carry you for hours at a time. I'd also like to keep my hands free, unless you have a better idea. I mean, I suppose I could carry you over my shoulder for the long trek through the jungle. I'm sure that wouldn't be painfully uncomfortable. My gaze scans the harness that wanders the room as my mind spins its wheels trying to come up with an alternative to being carried around like a cyborg's backpack. My shoulders sag a little as I say, yeah, I got nothing. Okay then, she gestures. Okay then, she says, gesturing with the harness. Let's get started. Heaving a resigned sigh and with some amount of grumbling, I let her get the harness on me. Once I'm in, she slips her arms through the shoulder straps and easily, if unsteadily, stands. Over her shoulder, she instructs me. Put your arm around my neck and stop leaning back so much. You're throwing my balance off. Biting down on a complaint, I obey, loosely slipping my arm around her neck. The feel of her body pressed against mine is unsettling, like hugging a living statue, except for where the synth skin covers her neck and the area around it. Synth skin aside, her cyborg physique definitely isn't like a human body. This already awkward situation is made more so in my mind by the fact that it's not altogether unpleasant to be this close to her. Her body is generating a noticeable warmth, and the sensation is surprisingly relaxing. Her hair brushing against the side of my face when she turns her head is silky and soft. Pushing these things from my mind, I focus on the business at hand. After getting a feel for the rig, she sets me down, and the next minute or so is spent making adjustments to how the harness fits. Once the adjustments are complete, she then puts the harness back on and stands up, walking in a small circle to let it settle. "How's that?" Alita asks me over her shoulder. "It's fine," I respond tensely, becoming increasingly uncomfortable with her closeness. Or more precisely, with how uncomfortable I'm becoming with how pleasant I'm finding this closeness. Silently, I complain. "Are we done yet? Can I go now?" "You'd better be sure," she says with a cautioning tone. "You're going to be in that thing for hours." "Right," I think morosely. Once we get to that part of the dirt road that I came out of the jungle on, it's 2 hours in and 2 hours back. With an effort, I relax enough to point out a couple of additional adjustments that need to be made so the harness can more evenly distribute my weight. She lets me down to make the necessary changes. When done, she stands up with me on her back and walks around a little more. Coming to a stop, she again asks over her shoulder, "Okay, how's that?" "It's good. Everything's fine," I say, pushing down the faint humiliation burning in the back of my mind. Sullenly, I ask, "So we're done now, right?" Making a final adjustment to the shoulder strap, she responds impatiently, "Almost. Don't be such a baby." Struck by a sudden fit of smartassery, I bite back. "That would be easier to do if you weren't carrying me like one." In response, she merely shoots a smirk at me as she finishes adjusting the harness. At last, the ordeal is over, and I'm relieved to be back in my wheelchair. I'm seized by a flash of intense anger as a thought runs through my mind. Relieved to be back in a fucking wheelchair. My muscles tense at the sudden impulse to break something comes over me, making my hand ball into a fist, and I feel my face contort in anger. I attempt to suppress it by taking a deep breath and stretching as if tired. These sudden fits of anger that break up my depression are becoming more unexpected. After Alita and I wrap up the harness fitting, Ito and Kiyomi go over the details of my hiding spot with me. To put it simply, I'll be placed inside the crate on a bed of parts, cushioned with some strategically placed blankets, and wait for them to let me out. "Well, that should about do it," Ito comments, straightening up from putting a last few touches on my hiding place. "I think it's past time for dinner." He turns to Kiyomi. "Care to join us?" "Sure," she answers brightly. Dinner is accompanied by talk about any unforeseen problems that may need to be planned for, as well as questions about what we'll find when we get out there. Questions that Kiyomi hasn't heard the answers to yet. So once again, I relate what I remember of my arrival in the jungle outside Iron City. When I'm done, Kiyomi looks understandably dubious. "No offense or anything," she says carefully, "but I can't really wrap my head around you being some kind of time traveler from the distant past. I'm going to have to go with Alita on this." My eyebrows lower. "So you're going to go with this theory that I'm a holdover from that old war?" I give Kiyomi and Alita a dubious look of my own as I say, "I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that." Kiyomi shrugs deeply. "Well, Alita's a holdover from the fall, and she did find her berserker body stored quite safely in a stasis chamber." Letting out a quiet, frustrated sigh, I have to admit. Yeah, I guess Alita's theory does sound a hell of a lot more plausible. I'm beginning to understand more fully how crazy I sound when I lay out the story of my arrival here, as well as just how lucky I've been that these people are taking me somewhat seriously. By the time everyone's ready to turn in, it's gotten rather late. "How about you stay the night?" Alita suggests to Kiyomi. "You'd have to drive back here tomorrow morning anyway. I could give you the bed, since I don't really need it." Kiyomi happily accepts her offer. The sky is just starting to lighten as I'm sitting in my wheelchair, staring out the window. I managed about 2 hours of sleep before nightmares woke me up again. Between that and the building anxiety over what's about to happen, as well as the new findings over my anomalous affliction, I haven't been able to sleep since. So I got dressed and have been sitting here in the darkened room looking out at a world that remains both familiar and alien. Memories of a past life come back to me, News stories about gangs, drug cartels, brutal violence against everyday people whose only crime was deciding to go shopping that day, to say nothing of the more everyday crimes of mugging, simple assaults, and murders. I have no illusions concerning day-to-day life in this city. Just the thought of living out the remainder of my time in this place is exhausting. No family, no friends, struggling to survive, with no hope of a better future. Thoughts focus more fully on what the people here likely have to do, both to themselves and to each other, to make it through each day. If I'm going to live here, will I have to do the same? After all, I'm not some powerful motorball star or a talented cyber physician. What can I do to make a living here? Will I have to start being like everyone else, willing to screw over others just to try and survive? Divest myself of every ideal I've worked my whole life to live by? The idea of doing so almost makes me physically sick. I'm suddenly struck by a directionless anger, almost hatred of this city and the people in it. Hating this world and the people I imagine as monsters of a sort fills me with an energizing strength. I am, however, well aware of how damaging that kind of strength will be in the end. With substantial effort, I push the hateful feelings aside. I look down at the remains of my legs and consider yet again this strange affliction that's keeping me confined to this wheelchair. It's so easy to sit here and feel sorry for myself about what's happened. Certainly there's plenty for me to feel sorry about, I think. Others in my place would probably blame God for their misfortune, but I refuse to see it that way. Much like when I signed up for military service, I volunteered to take on the risks that came with following the Son of God. I chose to put my life on the line for another. Every act of kindness is a risk, from the rather insignificant risk of not being appreciated all the way up to the risk of far worse. That day I made deliveries with Loretta, I got some of that worse. If I wasn't willing to accept those risks, then I shouldn't have ever accepted that baptism. There is good here too, isn't there? Asks a voice from somewhere within. Letting out a deep breath, I feel the anger cool. Henry, Loretta, some of the others. They're good people, and no doubt there are more good people in this city, even if few in number. Ito and his little family here seem to be an excellent example. They've done so much for me, put up with so much for me, to say nothing of what they've done for this community. Considering that, shouldn't I be able to count them as friends? I want to, desperately, but fear brings a near certainty that it'll all come tumbling down the moment that I do such a thing. So it remains, these are good people, but they aren't my people. No one in this world is. Her amnesia. My mind makes an unexpected turn towards Alita. Maybe that's why she's thinking I'm some kind of pre-fall holdover. Maybe she's hoping that if I am, whatever we find out there will shake something loose about her own past. It seems like a possible motive, but it could also simply be just an understandable skepticism about my story. I'm jolted from my ruminations by a light knock at the door. A glance out the window shows me that dawn's light is touching the tops of the buildings. I'm only mildly surprised at how much time has passed. Come in, I call out. Dr. Ito pushes the door open and steps in, turning on the overhead light. Good morning. How are you feeling? He asks with a professional but genuine concern. A weary shrug. A little tired, but otherwise fine. He steps closer, scrutinizing me, no doubt noticing that I have the same clothes on from yesterday. Did you get any sleep? Another shrug. 2 or 3 hours. My eyes have been itching and burning with that sanding feeling that comes from lack of sleep. If I had really gotten that old, time was it would take more than one partly sleepless night for that to happen. He gives a single nod. I was about to make coffee. Figure you might like some before we do last-minute checks on everything. Then we'll have breakfast. Yeah, I say blankly. That sounds good. I'll be right down. His gaze lingers on me for half a heartbeat, his expression unreadable. Then he nods and walks out towards the elevator. I consider briefly getting into fresh clothes, but see little point to it considering that we'll be heading out into the jungle. Once I get downstairs, Ito insists on giving me my medication before coffee. Shortly after I settle down with a cup, Kiyomi and Alita make their way down and settle in at the table. Kiyomi grabbing a coffee and Alita some tea. Ito and the young women are quickly caught up in discussing the upcoming smuggling operation. Their attitudes towards it are a sort of cautious excitement. Kiyomi even brings up the idea of giving the operation a code name, an idea that is summarily shot down by both Ito and Alita. Meanwhile, I'm sitting quietly off to the side, blearily trying to keep up with what's being discussed. That feeling of unreality hits me again, and I withdraw a bit, a state I am quickly pulled out of as Ito directs me into the living room to help get things ready. It doesn't take long, merely consisting of making sure that everything fits the way it's supposed to. The little oxygen bottle I'll have with me will be inside my field jacket, positioned on my left side so I can reach under my jacket and open the valve a little if need be. No breather mask will be fitted to it because the mask would be visible if I end up needing to use it during the inspection. My glasses will be in one of the large pockets along with my new ID, just in case it should be needed for some reason. Backpacks with some food and water are prepared and everything is ready to go. Then it's a quick breakfast. As we're cleaning up from that, Gerhat arrives. Ito does some last-minute fussing as he puts on a broad-brimmed hat and a light coat. All right, so I got everything sorted and laid out, including a few things you shouldn't need, just in case. There are a couple patients expected today that require significant repairs. I know, Gerhat assures him, chuckling softly. I helped you make some of these preparations. I'll be fine. It's one day, nothing I can't handle. Yes, of course, Ito concedes. His features showing a trace of pride, he adds. You're practically a cyber surgeon in your own right. I suppose I'm more worried about what we're about to do than anything else. Not too late to put this off, she says to him. I don't think Jason's necessarily wrong to be worried about what the lot of you are about to do. Alita, now carrying her Damascus blade at her hip, comes over and puts a reassuring hand on Gerhard's arm. It'll be fine. This way is actually a lot safer than those subterranean tunnels. The Centurions won't even know he's in the van. She then gives the nurse a quick one-armed hug. With any luck, we'll be back with something useful. There's a quick round of goodbyes, then everything is packed up. After that, I'm loaded into the crate before being placed inside Kiyomi's van, the better to avoid prying eyes. Or so I'm told. Considering what I know of the technology from my own time, Zalem is no doubt the equivalent of a giant surveillance drone hanging over Iron City, with what they must have available in this day and age. I decide that the precaution is well warranted. After some light jostling, my crate stops moving and there's the sounds of metal doors being closed. Then the lid opens up to reveal the blurry visage of Dr. Ito. All right, you want to do it yourself or do you like me? Ito asks as he holds up the small square of plastic that contains the mild sedative he'd planned to give me. After a second's consideration, I say, guess you'd better do it. You've got two hands after all. I can see a small portion of my surroundings, and from the look of it, Kiyomi's van is more like a small panel truck. I've yet to see it from the outside. Ito peels off the backing and the patch is applied over my carotid artery. Then we sit and wait out the short time before it takes effect. As we do, I look over at Ito and say to him, you know, I've been meaning to ask something. With the tip of his head to one side in quizzical fashion, he responds, what's on your mind? What makes those tunnels so dangerous exactly? Ito takes a breath before responding. Aside from the dangers of structural collapse, there are, well, things living down there. After a moment to consider the implications of what he's telling me, I say flatly, seriously. He nods. While I think it's safe to say a good deal of it is rumor and exaggeration, there is more than enough truth to it. There are too many stories of more monstrous cyborgs that were either someone's experiment that got loose or people who took augmentations too far after becoming obsessed with more and more upgrades. Criminals who have gone into hiding after being unable to flee the city. For certain, there are some truly depraved individuals that make their homes down there and come up at night to prey on the inhabitants of the poorest areas of the city. I see. Although I had suspected as much, hearing it spoken out loud is chilling. For a brief moment, I consider asking about Grishka, but decide I've pried enough. Ito lets me know that once we're within a couple blocks of the gate, he'll close up the crate. After a short time, my eyelids are drooping and sleepiness begins falling over me. Before I know it, the time comes. Ito gives me one last reassurance before closing the lid. Then there's the sound of the rear doors opening and closing as he moves to the cab to join the others. Shortly after that, I feel the van jolt into motion. Despite the stress, fear, and anxiety that's once again taking hold of me, lack of sleep wins out, and I doze off before we even get to the gate. End of chapter.
That's
Okay.
one of my favorite scenes is yeah, you know, Lee is the one where he says that she says quit what was she said? She said don't
It says, stop
quit being a
complaining. Don't
baby."
be such a big baby. It's like it's be easier to do if you weren't carrying like one. You know.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of my favorite
Oh man,
parts of this.
as hot as it is, my throat's so dry. I keep drying out. Man,
If Jason was one of my characters, he'd be snarky way more often.
oh, I'm sure he would be.
Just saying.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna take a quick break to get some more fluid in me.
We'll be back after these messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we don't run any ads on this stream.
It's a dry heat,
So-
and that's part of the problem. It's drying me out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab some
Yeah.
water real quick.
Yeah, in Colorado, it's really important to stay hydrated. That's for sure. Well, Maxie is a fellow author. What's your take?
Well, I'm just sort of waiting for them to get to the punchline, really. I need to get out of the city and for them to realize that that Jason is telling him the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I can
AKA. Go ahead, Maxie.
I can understand their difficulty believing the story because it is quite wild.
Mhm.
But well, there's a way to prove it, and we're getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of writing is, you know, you jump the boring bits to get to the good bits.
Yeah.
But I think Lee's writing's a lot more grounded in that he doesn't skip over those bits because, you know, depression and other psychological issues are things that you never get a break from. When you're suffering from them, it's every single day. You wake up to them every single day. And that's kind of what this story, I mean, it's set on a backdrop of, you know, our favorite story, which, you know, it's nice to have Alita and Ito and Koyomi all in there doing their things. But
Yeah.
it's also showcasing the fact that when you have this, there's no breaks. There's no breaks from it. There's no days off. There's no time off for good behavior. If you're suffering from these things and you're not properly medicated, as Jason isn't because he doesn't have access to those drugs anymore, it is a struggle. And
Mhm.
that not jumping over the slower parts to get to the more interesting parts is a stylistic choice. And I think it works in as much as it demonstrates what Lee's trying to get across, in that these things don't go away. They are permanent, and you get no breaks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, it's one of the things I did worry about, that it would be too slow for people, but I figured it's just going to have to be the nature of the beast.
Well, we are coming up to one of my other favorite little scenes where she
Actually,
I know which one you mean. It's the protein
Yeah.
bar scene, isn't it?
well, that's chapter 13,
Well-
so it's not going to be this chapter.
Yeah, it won't be this coming chapter. I guess not. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I
I'm
knew
not
as soon
gonna-
as you said it which one it was.
well, I'm not
All
going
right.
to say it because I don't want to spoil. Because we'll have Lee back on to read that one as well. So,
Yeah.
all right, Lee. Well, yeah,
Excuse me.
if you're willing,
Man.
if you're willing, we can go on to chapter. What is it? 12, I guess.
Yep. Just kind of thinking I might be sounding like I'm dried out. It feels like my voice is kind of scratchy a lot. I'm not sure it's how it's sounding to you guys, though.
No, it sounds fine to me.
Okay.
I much
Why,
prefer listening to your voice than mine, dude. I got to say.
Are you wanting to maybe maybe postpone chapter 12, Lee? Or are you?
No, I was just wondering how my voice is sounding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, your voice sounds great. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like it's kind of drying out a bit, but I can still keep going if it's sounding okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So then, on to chapter 12, Forest of a Dead Earth. I'm awakened by a grating mechanical voice outside the vehicle. It's loud enough that I can clearly hear it through the walls of the vehicle and the crate I'm lying in. Initiating scan. Remain where you are. Near panic brings me to full alert. I hold my breath and try to quiet my heartbeat. I can almost feel the barrels of the 3-meter-tall Centurion's cannons sweep over me on the other side of the van's thin metal walls. If that thing decides to open fire, the thin steel of the van and this crate won't provide any kind of protection. The rounds from their side-mounted machine guns will rip holes through the vehicle, the crate, and me with only the most minimal loss of kinetic energy as they blast little craters in whatever's on the other side of Kiyomi's van. Considering how tall the Centurions are, the downward angle of the trajectory means the roadway on the other side will catch most of it. The air inside the crate begins feeling overly warm and stuffy. Though it starts getting a little difficult to breathe, I put it down to my rising anxiety. It gets me thinking about the little oxygen bottle tucked away inside my jacket. Fearful that even touching it might expose something to the Centurion scanners, I hug myself tighter. Better that I suffer a little shortness of breath than risk the lives of the others. Besides, I reason to myself, it's probably just anxiety. It's really unlikely to be running out of breathable air. They did say the crate's not airtight. Even so, the fear remains that I might be using up the oxygen faster than it's getting replenished by the air coming through whatever tiny openings there are in the crate. I hug my arm more tightly to myself. After maybe an hour, there's the sound of the rear doors opening. A voice, human and a little gruff sounding, announces loudly, "All right, looks clear here." The Centurion's mechanical voice loudly proclaims, "Inspection complete. Vehicle cleared." A second human voice at a more normal volume, "Why don't we do a complete inspection anyway?" The first voice, "What? Why?" "Well, it might be fun to watch them sit and boil while we rummage their stuff. Besides, I'm bored." "You're bored? Really?" says first voice with heavy sarcasm. "So am I, but I'm not going to bust my ass hauling all this stuff out just so you can fuck with someone." Second voice comes back with, "Why not? It's well within our power to do, and what's the point of having a little power if you can't use it to fuck with someone?" The voice gets lower. "Besides, you've seen who that is. These motorball players are always strutting around like they own the city just because they can chase a motorball around a track. I'd love to watch one of these motorball superstars sit and steam while one of us gutter slugs does our job at their expense." "Yeah, I know exactly who's in this van," first voice responds, tinged with anger and possibly a little fear. "I was there when she cut off the pan's face. I also managed to sneak a look inside that factory building after her little rampage. Yeah, don't give me that face. I saw it." First lowers his voice. "She ain't sticking to her motorball body anymore. She's back in that same body she used to wreck all those Centurions and kill Vector. You think one little Centurion's going to save your dumb ass if she decides to liven up your boring day with that blade of hers?" The voice hardens. "Centurion says they're clear. They're clear. Leave it at that." There's no further conversation, just the sound of the rear doors to the cargo area slamming shut. The van starts moving again. But I don't start breathing easily until I've counted to 120. Then I reach into my jacket, careful not to let it fall open even a little, and crack the valve on the oxygen bottle. We didn't want to risk equipping the bottle with a breather mask, since I'd have to take it out of hiding in order to use it. Maybe it's just my imagination, but the extra oxygen seems to help, though it's still overly warm. Sweat starts forming in earnest, increasing my discomfort. It takes some effort to slow my breathing, more to try and relax farther than any attempt at conserving air. More to try and relax rather than any attempt at conserving air. The mild sedative helps with that, but not as much as I expected it to. Several minutes later, the tension and anxiety begin to release, and the adrenaline fades, and I begin feeling drowsy again. I open the valve on the O2 bottle a hair's breadth more and let myself drift as exhaustion sets in, figuring we'll have to drive a ways away from the gate before they can safely let me out. After losing track of time, but probably less than an hour, I feel the van slow to a stop. The sound of the rear doors opening, then closing, reaches me in the hot darkness inside the crate. There's a scraping sound on the lid of my crate as the smaller boxes are being moved off. Then I'm blinded by the light in the ceiling of the cargo space as the lid is thrown open and I squeeze my eyes shut. Blinking them, I open my eyes to see the blurred form of Dr. Ito looking down at me. At first, the air smells fresher. Then I'm hit with what I can only describe as a scent of oily puke. It's like a combination of used motor oil, hydraulic fluid, mixed with some other chemicals, and a dash of vomit on top. Fortunately, it's not particularly strong. Reaching under my jacket, I shut off the bottle's valve. "You all right?" he asks as he reaches in to help me up into a sitting position. Taking a deep breath, I lean against the side of the crate as if sitting in a bathtub and let my head fall back to let it out again. "Yeah," I say simply. I don't really feel all right. I have to close my eyes to steady this feeling of the world spinning around me. Just give me a minute. The stark reality of my situation suddenly crashes in on me, bringing with it a tide of grief, loss, and hopelessness. That sharp-edged awareness of the world around me that scrapes on raw nerves. Pain wells up inside me again, and there's the threat of tears once more. Summoning up a measure of anger, I slowly shake my head from side to side as I push back at the pain. There's no time for this. In a soft, firm voice, Dr. Ito calls my name. "Jason?" I feel his hand on my shoulder. I still my movements. Quickly taking another deep breath, I let it out just as quickly and open my eyes to look over at him. This close, I can see the intensity in his eyes and the concern on his face, even without my glasses. "Are you all right?" he asks again, honestly. A numbing emptiness comes over me and I stare up at the ceiling of the van. Vacantly, I answer, "Not really, no." In an attempt to reassure us both, I add, "But I think I will be." I try very hard to believe that. "All right, just relax for a moment," he says, bringing out an old-fashioned stethoscope. He gives me a quick going over, but finds nothing out of order. I take a moment to finally put my glasses back on. The sound of a couple large vehicles going past us on the road towards the city disturbs the quiet. I finally notice a slight tilt to the vehicle towards the right and figure he must be parked on the shoulder of the road. The sound of the other vehicles passing by, heading away from the city, is accompanied by the sound of the rear doors to the cargo area opening. Glancing towards the open door reveals Alita standing there. She offers me a faint smile and asks, "Holding up all right?" Looking back up at the roof of the van, I nod while trying in vain to force this feeling to pass. Out of the corner of my working eye, I see Ito give a faint shake of his head towards Alita. Aloud, he says, "I'll stay with him until we get further up the road away from all this traffic." He folds up his stethoscope and tucks it away. "Then we can transfer him up to the cab." Glancing at the traffic passing us by, Alita nods, "Right." Then she closes the door. Shortly afterwards, we get underway again. Taking a seat on a narrow bench running along one wall of the cargo space, Ito asks, "You all right with staying in there for now?" With an answering nod, I say, "Yeah, I'm fine. It's comfortable enough." It is, in fact, rather comfortable, as well as being a secure place to sit, seeing as the crate has been strapped to the forward wall. Ito nods and we sit in silence for a time. He busies himself with something on one of those little data pads while I sit and stare at the wall, listening to the sounds of the van's drive system and the occasional vehicle rumble past on its way to the city. My mind finally settles, leaving only that emptiness behind, along with the echoing comments I'd overheard from that gate guard. Despite my attempts to push it out of my head, it begins to gnaw at me more and more, until finally... Did Alita ever have to deal with someone by the name of Zapan? I ask him. Ito's expression makes it clear that this isn't a pleasant subject, but he answers anyway. She did, yes. Why do you ask? Feeling a little embarrassed for bringing it up, I drop my gaze to avoid looking him in the eyes. Despite feeling that I shouldn't have even brought it up, I push on now that I have. I overheard one of the gate guards. He said something about her cutting this Zapan's face off. I furrow my brow as I try to keep my train of thought. I was just curious if that was true. It is, he says. Returning his focus to the datapad, his voice turns grave. Zapan hurt people she cared about. She repaid his cruelty. His tone is matter-of-fact, and he keeps his eyes focused on the pad. Nodding silently, I decide I'd best leave it at that and go back to staring at the worn metal wall. Do you still think she's somehow a danger to you? Ito's question startles me out of my brooding. I take a moment to think about my answer. Not really, at least not on a rational level. Even after living with you for such a short time, I've learned she doesn't seem to be someone who's just randomly violent. The van lurches as if hitting a large pothole in the road, and we pause to brace ourselves until the vehicle steadies itself. He nods. She has never harmed someone without good reason. Rest assured, she has no reason to be violent towards you. Suppose you don't realize it, but she was rather impressed with you when she found out why you'd been brought in. I stare at him for a second or two, then throw my head back and laugh out loud. The laughter dies down to a chuckle, and I can see by the look on his face that my reaction caught him off guard. A quote from an old TV series whips through my mind. Wait, you're serious? Hold on, let me laugh harder. I come very close to voicing that thought aloud. Instead, I ask, seriously? She was impressed? By what? How much blood I could lose and still survive? He merely frowns in response. She was impressed by what you tried to do, he explains. It's not often, almost never in fact, that we see someone put themselves in harm's way like you did to save someone in need. Despite how you feel about what happened, Kiyomi was right. Quite a few people do see you as something of a hero. I'm hit with a feeling of nausea at the comment. Not sure why, really. I want to argue the point, to explain why he's wrong about me, but I can't seem to put the words together. So I end up just sitting there, staring off into space, being inexplicably angry. I know she makes you uncomfortable, Ito says after a moment, raising his voice a little to be heard over the noise of a large vehicle passing us as it heads the other direction. But maybe if you tried to interact with her a little more, you might start to feel differently. I look over at him, feeling a faint scowl on my face. Shrugging slightly, I ask, what the hell did we talk about? Memories that you people think are delusions? We did a little bit of that. We don't have anything in common. I have asked about what she remembers of Mars, but I'm not sure I should really dig into that any more than I have, considering the whole amnesia thing. The corners of his mouth turn up in a reserved smile. Actually, that might be a good subject to start with. She's not shy about most things, and certainly not about her past. In fact, I think she would like it if you expressed an interest in that. The smile fades. Just don't mention Hugo or Zapan, and you should be fine. My tired mind considers his words. Well, I have really been itching to ask her more about what it was like being a Martian, traveling on a starship, all that, assuming she even remembers much of it. Sighing quietly, I shrug. Yeah, I suppose I could do that. His smile returns more broadly this time. Excellent. We've all noticed your uneasiness around her, as well as some of the other cyborgs that come through the clinic. Getting to know her a little better might help with that. I can only agree, having already come to a similar conclusion some time ago. I just haven't been sure how to approach it. After a time, I'm awakened from an uneasy sleep to find Ito gently jostling my shoulder. I blink my eyes open and look over at him blearily. Time for a change of scenery, he says as he stands up. The rear doors open to reveal Alita and Kiyomi standing there. Behind them, I can see that the badly paved road has given way to a narrower dirt road with some amount of wild vegetation along the sides of it. I recognize this road. We're out past the Sheffield farm, the furthest flung settlement on this side of Zolom's territory. It's also the border of said territory that most closely approaches the city itself. Guess there's not much of value to Zolom to the southeast, so they never bothered spreading this way much. Ito leans down while facing me and puts his left arm around me under my arms. Hold on to me, he instructs. I put my arm around his shoulders and he lifts me out of the crate, quickly putting me down next to it with a grunt of exertion. I wince inwardly at the metallic clatter of the implants on the ends of my thighs, hitting the floor of the van. At least I seem to be getting accustomed to the jarring sensation of the metal implants hitting something. Then I'm picked up by Alita and she carries me to the extended cab of the van, setting me in the front passenger seat. Afterwards, she and Ito climb into the rear passenger seats. Climbing into the driver's seat, Kiyomi looks over at me. Be sure to let me know when to stop, all right? It's not much farther, is it? I nod to her in answer to her first question. It's a ways yet. The place I came out of the jungle is a brush-covered hillside with no trees and a rocky ravine down it. Okay. She puts the van into drive and gets underway. We spend the remainder of the trip listening to the others engage in occasional conversation. I spend the remainder of the trip listening to the others engage in occasional conversation. A few times I'm tempted to join in, but I have nothing worthwhile to add to the discussions. So I just stare out at the passing scenery and submerge myself in my own thoughts, mulling over what Ito was saying earlier. Other than that, I keep focused on making sure we don't pass up our objective. Having only ever walked out this way, I badly miscalculate how fast we get to our goal in a vehicle, even on this rough dirt track. We come around a large, steep hill, and I snap out of my reveries upon recognizing the terrain. That's it, I say to Kiyomi, while pointing off towards her side through the windshield at a spot 100 meters or so away. Kiyomi parks the van on the side of the road opposite the hill, and everyone except me hops out. They head back and begin breaking out the backpacks with our supplies. While they do so, I sit there looking up at the hillside when I first stumbled onto this little dirt road. Where I first stumbled onto this little dirt road. It's not a particularly steep hill, maybe a 30-degree or so incline. It's strewn with little boulders and brush, but no trees for dozens of meters along its face, and hundreds of meters up its slope and along its crest. The tall rainforest trees on the surrounding higher hills serve to block out the sight of Zolom and its space elevator off in the distance, particularly when it's a fairly cloudy day as there is today. I idly wonder if there's some kind of toxin left over from that old war that's preventing trees from retaking the hill. From what chatter I can hear, there's almost an air of excitement from the others, as if this were some sort of adventure. I just sit in my seat listening to them as I lean my head back and feel sick. That faint buzzing starts to hit me again, accompanied by a shaky weakness that begins in what remains of my limbs. I close my eyes and wish it would just go away, for all the good that does. Jason? I look over at Alita standing there holding that harness. Oh, my shoulders sag in resignation. Yeah. Strangely, my oncoming panic attack dissipates. I let her help me out of my jacket and we get the harness on me. After putting my jacket back on, she slips her arms to the shoulder straps and lifts me out of the van. She shifts a little to better settle everything, and I quietly breathe a resigned sigh. I can't help but feel absolutely stupid being carried like this. If it makes you feel any better, Alita says to me over her shoulder as if reading my mind, I'm not exactly thrilled with this either. Yeah, I didn't figure you would be, I answer back morosely. It's just, I'm a grown man. She responds with a mix of sympathy and impatience. Yes, well, this is what we have to do for now. Hopefully, once Ito's able to get you fixed up, your life can start getting back to something more normal. Anger and sadness hit me all at once. But I keep my voice calm and steady. I know. I really do appreciate everything you guys have done. Really. I want to say more, but emotions cloud my thinking, preventing me from coming up with anything. Hey, maybe you could try to do some of the things you used to do for fun, she suggests. What did you like to do in your off time at the farm? I didn't really do fun, I say with a shrug. I pretty much just worked. I don't bother adding that I didn't really see the point in anything else. She looks off in the distance, seeming thoughtful. Maybe you could try to pick up a new interest. Working at a new skill might help you feel back in control of your life. Out of rising frustration, I think to myself, says the woman with the regenerating cyborg body capable of kicking the shit out of a small army of killer droids. Despite knowing that she's not actually mocking me somehow, I still find myself getting irrationally angry. Keeping my temper in check, I answer her calmly, if a little tensely. Guess it couldn't hurt to consider it. Ito approaches, carrying my backpack in hand with his own slung over his shoulders. Kiyomi follows with her pack and hands the other she carries to Alita. Then there's a moment of waiting while Kiyomi secures her vehicle. Ito gestures towards the jungle at large. All right then, he says rather cheerfully. Where to? I direct them towards the shallow rocky ravine cut into the side of the treeless hill with my residual arm. That way, up the hill and keep going till we hit the tree line. There should be a little path there that will follow. With one last adjustment of the shoulder straps, Alita begins easily bounding up the rock-strewn ravine. Somewhat unsettled by the speed and agility with which she carries me across the terrain, I try not to hold on too tightly. Once at the top, she is forced to slow down so as to not outpace the others. As we approach the tree line, I point out the little animal trail that we'll be following. We plunge into the jungle, and I'm soon glad we brought my jacket despite the heat. It helps protect against the occasional thorn or sharp branch that comes my way. Alita tries to avoid them, but I'm fairly sure she's not used to having to account for carrying someone on her back like this. It's fortunate that I've got enough of a left arm remaining that I can shield my face when I need to. As we travel, conversation is minimal. After a while, I decide to take Ito's advice and ask Alita more about what she does remember. Stepping around something that looks like a meter-tall pineapple covered in dagger-like thorns, she says, there's still not a whole lot. So, nothing about life on a starship or anything like that? No, afraid not. Though she smiles over her shoulder at me, there's a hint of frustration in her voice. There are fragments of things, but it's mostly a few snippets of fighting on the moon, fighting here on Earth, that sort of thing. Something about that sends up red flags in my mind. Fighting against enemy soldiers. Yes. So a lot of fighting and war, then waking up in Ito's clinic? Pretty much. That's something I hadn't really put together from the last time she talked about our past. For everyone else here, the war was hundreds of years ago. But for the person that Alita used to be, the Martian berserker, that war could have been yesterday. There's a distinct possibility that the young Martian soldier that Alita had once been will come back in full force and take control. Amnesia can be strange like that. Images dance through my head, of buildings burning, of blood and bodies splattered across the streets, the shattered remains of homes and the destroyed remnants of the men, women, and children that lived in them. And among it all, arms blaze with a brilliant blue plasma fire is Alita, destroying everything and everyone in her path without regard, wearing that intensely focused killer expression I've seen her wear on the motorball track. I have a feeling that whatever kind of person Alita used to be, she would have no kindness in her, and could very well see every inhabitant of Iron City as a potential enemy to be killed outright. I decide that's enough of asking about her past. I give my head a furious shake and rub the side of my head against the bicep of my residual arm in an attempt to physically force these thoughts out of my head. She gently puts a hand on my right forearm as she asks over her shoulder, "Hey, you all right?" A remembered vision hits me of her hand clamping down on my arm, my bones crumbling under her merciless grip, and my flesh squeezing between her fingers like bloody clay. Feeling the faintest twitch of the skin on my back, I calmly answer, "Yeah, I'm just tired." I have no other reaction, and I count that as a victory of sorts. It's marred by the effort it takes to pull my mind away from fixating on the fact that the body I'm hugging is, in fact, a highly advanced war machine. We'll take a break after about an hour or so, Ito announces from behind us. While Alita could no doubt continue without trouble, I'm afraid the rest of us could do with a bit of rest. For the next little while, Alita tries to continue conversing with me. I make the attempt to remain involved, but eventually I just run out of things to say, or things that seem worth saying. After a seemingly uncomfortable stretch of silence, I say to her apologetically, "Sorry if I'm not being particularly good company right now." "That's all right," she says with a quiet laugh. "I was mainly trying to keep you entertained. Figured you might be getting bored just hanging back there." Managing a more cheerful attitude, I respond sincerely, "Well, I appreciate that." Before long, our little group stops in a small clearing for a quick break. Slipping out of the shoulder straps, Alita lowers me to the ground at the base of a tree that I can lean back against. Opening up the packs, food is brought out. Ito hands me something that looks like a processed food bar. I notice the others have similar items. He then hands me a small thermos of cool water. Not feeling particularly hungry, I sit and listen to the light chatter of the others. Leaning my head back against the smooth bark of the tree, I look up at what sky I can see through the few breaks in the leafy canopy. A dizzying sensation hits me and I close my eyes. My mind rushes with unwanted thoughts. Wasn't I just working on a farm? Wasn't I only recently listening to Loretta and Natira talking over dinner? Where did it all go? How did my life come to this? Time and memory seem to blur together. It feels like everything has happened so fast. I breathe a tired sigh and doze off. I'm awakened suddenly to find Ito kneeling next to me. "We decided to let you sleep for a bit, but I'm afraid we should get going," he says apologetically. With a quick nod, I say agreeably, "Yes, right, better get going." I hand him my uneaten food bar and unopened thermos. He hands the thermos back. You really should drink something. Won't help to let you get yourself dehydrated out here." Let me try that again. Won't help to let yourself get dehydrated out here. Even knowing he's right, I still stifle a sigh of annoyance. I had intended to limit my fluid intake, so as to keep bathroom breaks to a minimum. I already have to deal with the indignity of this harness. Didn't want to deal with needing help just to take a piss out here. Taking the thermos from him, I gulp down a bit of water. This seems to satisfy his professional concern, and I hand the thermos back. Everything is packed up, and once again, Alita hoists me onto her back. The next hour or so of travel passes in relative silence. Suddenly, Alita stops and looks off to the right and ahead. "That looks odd," she says curiously. I look in the direction of her gaze and see a darker shade of green compared to the vibrant green of the jungle foliage around us. That area ahead is more darkly shadowed, and it stretches across our path and further south to our right. A quick look up at the late mid-morning sun through gaps in the canopy tells me that I must have nearly gotten us off course. We hit the large circle of pine and fir trees on its northern side. Fortunately, it's a little hard to miss. Ito and Kiyomi catch up to us, and we stand there looking at the darker forest. "That's it," I inform them. My heart is suddenly racing. I find myself anxious and even a little fearful about how they'll react to what we're about to see. With quick glances at each other, the group walks towards the shadowy line of trees. It's soon apparent to all that they are indeed fir trees with a mix of pine thrown in, an alien sight among this jungle. Everyone comes to a stop and looks up and down the line of foreign trees, carefully studying them. Even the ground is abruptly different, as if a neatly drawn dividing line is made between the evergreen forest and the jungle. Along this dividing line, the evergreen trees and other forest vegetation appear to be slowly dying. On the other side of the line, the jungle seems likewise affected, as if both biomes are slowly poisoning each other. Northwestern American forest soil apparently doesn't get along nor play well with South American jungle soil. Kiyomi breaks the thick silence. It's not my imagination, right? These really shouldn't be here. No, they shouldn't, Ito confirms. He cranes his neck to look up at the tops of the pine trees. Following his gaze up, I'm met with a familiar sight. Familiar for me, anyway. The tops and upper parts of the evergreen trees, depending on the height of the tree, all along the border are cut at a steep angle. All of the trees, all the way around the almost 250-meter diameter circle, have their tops cut the same way. The angle of the cut goes inward towards the center of the circle, as if something dome-like had appeared over the area and removed the tops of the evergreens that were too tall to fit inside of it. A few of the evergreens at the border are very obviously dead, shorn in half or nearly so, bisected by this mysterious barrier. Only the half of them that were inside the line arrived here. A few of the jungle trees are likewise damaged. The exposed wood all up and down the trunk of each tree has a glossy, glass-like sheen. Whatever energy field, I'm assuming it was an energy field, had done this has left a similar aftermath on everything that was cut through by the barrier. I suppose I was lucky that I wasn't one of the things cut in half when that anomaly appeared. After a few moments of silently gazing at the unexpected grove of foreign trees, Ito approaches the borderline and gingerly reaches across it. Alita raises her hand and steps forward as if to stop him. He touches the branch of a nearby tree, cut short. The missing portion of the branch had been outside the barrier line, and so didn't arrive with the rest of the tree. When nothing happens, he begins looking more closely at the various plants, making comments on the obvious damage they suffered. He comments on the likelihood of whatever having done this being dome-shaped. I think it may have been a sphere, I say from over Alita's shoulder. She glances at me sharply as if she'd momentarily forgotten about me. The others turn to look at me as if they'd also forgotten I existed. If you look at that tree there, I gesture at one that is currently only half a tree. That one looks bisected, the one that looks bisected. You'll see that the damage goes into the ground, cutting the roots as well. At least from what little I was able to tell. Ito does so, going over to the indicated tree and crouching for a better look. He reaches down and touches the damaged base of the pine, then digs down by hand a ways. Yes, he says finally. I suspect you're right. This would explain all of the... He stands up and staggers back a couple steps, craning his head back to look up at the line of trees. My God, he mutters loudly. It's real. Kiyomi looks at him, then over in my direction. Her expression is one of surprise and confusion. So, you really are 600 years old? She blinks and shakes her head. I mean, from 600 years in the past? The anxiety and fear have quieted down, allowing me to answer a little blithely. Well, more like 540, but I like to round up. I smile and shrug awkwardly. I think 600 sounds more impressive. Something about the situation actually makes me feel more at ease. Maybe it's seeing them so confounded, I don't feel like I'm alone in being lost in the present situation. Who knows? Abruptly, Alita shrugs out of the harness. I barely manage to loosen my arm from around her neck as she sets me on the ground outside the barrier line up against the base of an undamaged jungle tree. When I can finally see it, her expression is guarded and unsure. Suddenly frightened of how she might react, I do the first thing that pops into my head. Sorry, I say to her contritely. Her expression becomes surprised but more open. Why? Shrugging awkwardly in the harness and jacket, I say, I'm not a Martian. I'm just some guy who got caught in some weird anomaly. I smile uncertainly and shrug again more lightly. I'm not even supposed to be here. Her gaze becomes searching as she crouches there looking at me. It seems like she wants to say something, but remains silent. And she turns her head and looks into the small alien forest of evergreens. Looking back at me, she states, "So, it's true. It's all true." Her statement of belief, as well as that of the others, hits me harder than I imagined it would. Relief washes over me so strongly that I nearly break down in tears. I press my hand over my mouth, trying to hold it all back. They believe me. I manage to hold all but a few stray tears back as I nod. Yep. The emotional quaver is mostly absent from my voice. I'm not delusional, and I wasn't lying. I breathe in sharply and manage to get my emotions more fully under control. I still have no idea how this will play out. We've only just started. With a sideways look at me, Kiyomi says lightly, almost teasingly, "We didn't think that you were lying, at least. Just a little crazy." Despite the perceived severity of the situation, that makes me laugh, which helps me get myself more under control. With a relieved sigh, I say, "Well, there is that, I suppose." Despite still thinking this could all go badly, I find myself smiling. Shrugging, Kiyomi smiles back, then turns to look over the evergreens again. "I've never seen trees like these. How about you, Doc? Ever see anything like this up in Zalem?" Ito glances over at her, looking vaguely surprised by her question. "Oh, yes, there are some. They're mostly kept in botanical gardens." Then he turns and walks over to where Alita and I are sitting. When he passes Kiyomi, she falls into step beside him. Soon, everyone's gathered around me, crouched down, or sitting in Kiyomi's case, all looking at me expectantly. Suddenly feeling like I'm under a spotlight, I look back at them and wonder, they're not expecting me to make some kind of grand reveal, are they? Because this is it. Everything seems surreal and strange. "I'm guessing we should just go straight in?" Ito asks me. His expression is patient and quizzical. My brain is kick-started into motion. Well, not necessarily. If we continue on around the north side here, we'll come to the road." Alita asks with a glance at the forest. "That would be the road you were driving on when this," she gestures broadly at the circle of evergreens, "happened?" I nod. Yep, traveling down that road might be easier instead of traipsing through the bushes and underbrush. "Well, let's get going then," Ito states with noticeable excitement. We agree, then Alita hoists me onto her back and we set off northward, around the perimeter of the circle. As we travel, Kiyomi asks Ito if he really thinks it's safe for them to enter it. "I mean, with what's going on with Jason," she elaborates, "is this place going to have some unforeseen effect on us? Like drain our life force or something the moment we set foot in it?" Alita takes on a lightly admonishing tone with her friend. Ito is already determined that whatever's happening to Jason, it isn't dangerous. Not to him and not to us. I'm seized by sudden nightmare scenarios. Among them, my companions falling unconscious when they fully cross the barrier line, and me being unable to do anything to help them. "She's right," I announce loudly. "What?" Alita stops in her tracks and looks back at me over her shoulder. "I am?" Kiyomi asks uncertainly as she too comes to a stop. Ito also halts, walking back a few steps to join us. As he does, I start to babble a little. "I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, what if the circle of trees that came through with me is generating the same effect? What if when you guys step in there, it's strong enough to do something unexpected, like drain the bioelectricity out of your bodies or something?" Ito holds up a hand and says in a calm voice, "I can run some tests with the equipment I brought." He sets his pack down and pulls out a handheld scanner. This shouldn't take too long. He spends the next 10 minutes or so taking measurements, then setting a small electronic device on the evergreen side of the line. Following that, he presses his hand onto the ground of the evergreen forest and moves his fingers while scanning it. Finally, he turns off the scanner and stands up, pushing the front of his hat up as he wipes his forehead. Well, there was no change in my communicator's electrical readings, nor my hand's heat signature or neural activity. No sign that I was being adversely affected by anything in there. Alita chides him. "You should have told me you needed to have a live subject for testing. I'm a lot more resilient. Who knows what could have happened to you?" He shrugs it off. "Your body's energy levels are a lot higher than what's in an organic body. What might not have affected you might affect Kiyomi and I. I needed to test something less resilient. In any event, I saw little reason to worry. Alita accepts his answer, though she still seems upset with him. Personally, I'm not sure what to think. While it's true that there's been no sign of danger, this does seem like a bit of a different situation. Regardless, Dr. Ito seems to have assessed the situation correctly. We continue around the northern side of the circle until we come to an opening in the trees. Stretching out before us is the length of paved road that I was driving on when the anomaly hit. Looking down the road, it curves its way through the forest, disappearing into the trees. At 800 feet, or just under 250 meters, the road has a couple slow turns in it. As a result, the trees hide the other end of the road from here. The pavement that reaches the very edge of the circle near us is cut neatly off. The exposed surface of the asphalt at the boundary line has a mirror smooth shine to it. They all stand there silently for a time, looking down the roadway that shouldn't be there. I remain silent, not having anything useful to say, and unsure that I should say anything at all. Kiyomi breaks the silence. Okay, I thought this would be like some kind of cool little adventure, but this is getting a little surreal. I hate to admit it, but it's starting to freak me out a little bit. Anger hits, hot and irrational. The words pour out suddenly, but I'm unable to keep my voice calm and even. Yeah, well, imagine what it's been like living through it. Kiyomi gazes towards the road through the forest. I can't imagine. Considering what kind of power must have been involved to cause something like this, you might be lucky to be alive. Looking a little dazed, Ito says, hearing you talk about it was one thing. Seeing it here in person. His brows knit together and he looks over at me. I just realized something. This place seems to be undisturbed. How do you mean? Alita asks before I can. Ito takes off his hat and runs a hand through his hair as he looks back in the direction of Iron City and Zalem. Well, Jason, you said there was a flash of white light all around you, yes? My eyebrows go up as it dawns on me where he might be going with this. Something like that, yeah. It was at night, too. A flash of white from something this big should have been easily seen from Zalem. You thinking there should be some sort of recon drones out here poking around? I can't believe after all this time I hadn't ever thought of that. He puts his hat back on and returns his gaze to the roadway. Pretty much, yes. So the question becomes, why isn't something from Zalem digging around out here? Alita finishes for him. Ito nods in agreement. After a very brief silence, Kiyomi posits, what if that flash of white light was only visible on the inside of the sphere or dome or whatever it was? Ito asks her, in what way exactly? Kiyomi shrugs offhandedly. Well, in the past, Alita described that stasis field storage device she got her body out of as having an opaque mirrored surface. What if this anomaly was similar in some way? Ito frowns thoughtfully and nods. That's entirely possible. An opaque surface, maybe reflective so as to mirror a dark sky appearing at night. I suppose that could be enough to hide it even from Zalem. He stands there for a moment, one arm crossed loosely over his chest, his other hand rubbing his chin. If it acted in a way similar to what's affecting Jason, then it wouldn't set off any sensors. I'm going in, Alita says abruptly, taking 2 quick steps towards the boundary line. You said it's safe and we don't really have all day. Exhaling sharply, Ito agrees. Right, of course. Shortly after Alita crosses the line, Ito and Kiyomi follow, though Kiyomi does so with noticeable trepidation. Very soon, our little group is walking southward down the road, following the dotted yellow line. Alita's head moves in regular motion as she keeps watch on her surroundings. Behind us, Kiyomi and Ito are gawking like tourists on vacation, with Ito picking up an odd plant or two and putting them in tiny plastic baggies, which he deposits in his backpack. Rounding a bend in the road, Kiyomi does a slow pirouette as she follows along. It's almost like being on another planet. It's so different, she says, eyes wide with wonder. I can't help but grin at her in amazement. Welcome to a little piece of Washington State, I proclaim, the northwesternmost state of the Union, which no longer exists. I end up depressing myself with that last statement. It's rather beautiful, Ito remarks. Turning my upper body slightly to look back at him, while being careful not to cause Alita any problems, I say to him, "You should have seen the mountains in winter, all covered in snow. That was some breathtaking scenery. Not that they weren't also beautiful the rest of the time." Kiyomi stares at me, slightly allied. "What's snow?" Ito stifles a laugh, earning him an indignant look from Kiyomi. We travel another 100 or so meters as I endeavor to explain snow to Kiyomi. Ito and Kiyomi both ask about various things, such as the types of trees or the purpose of the utility poles. Kiyomi is actually surprised to learn that we had power grids and communication lines so long ago, to mine and Ito's mostly suppressed amusement. Though he's never talked about it, I don't intend to ask unless he brings it up. I get the impression that Zalem provided Ito with a more extensive education in some aspects of history than Iron City did for Kiyomi. Not that that's much of a surprise, honestly, considering the other disparities between the two cities. Alita chimes in occasionally, though she remains unexpectedly quiet otherwise. We soon happen upon a plain white sign with black markings off to the side of the road. Ito approaches it and looks it over. Seems to have a reflective surface, though there's also the number 50 and 3 letters in English, M, P, and H. He turns to me with an air of professional curiosity and asks, "What exactly was the purpose of this sign?" I peer over Alita's shoulder at the object in question, no longer surprised to be asked about such a mundane item. "It's a speed limit sign, 50 miles per hour. Feeling far better than I have in quite a while, I add flippantly, "Though, being the troublesome anarchist that I am, I was doing about 58. It's probably why my truck slid off the end of the road when I slammed on the brakes." It had been a clear day, not another car on the road, and I had been in a bit of a hurry to get to Vanessa and our new house. In a sudden fit of bitterness, I think to myself, if I'd been doing the speed limit, I might have stopped before crashing my truck and busting that axle. But even if it were still drivable, so what? I couldn't have driven it out of this jungle, and even if I could have managed to do that, then what? Drop by the local gas station and ask for directions back to the 21st century? With some effort, I dropped that line of thinking and pushed the bitterness aside. Ito performs some scans on the sign and looks thoughtfully at his scanner's readouts, then looks around at the forest. "Something wrong?" Alita asks him in a faintly perplexed voice. Pulling himself out of whatever thoughts he was mulling over, Ito turns and says, "No, nothing's wrong as such. It's just..." He does about a half circle as he slowly turns in place, seeming to study the environment around him. "It's just the signs, the trees, the plants, these utility poles, the road surface we're standing on. None of it shows up on my scans in any way." "Just like Jason, then," Kiyomi remarks. "Didn't we already figure that'd be the case after seeing all this?" Alita asks. Ito nods a bit absently, rubbing the fingers of one hand across his forehead, pushing his hat up a little higher in his head. "Yes. I can't understand what's going on here. It's like everything here doesn't exist on some level. Or," he shrugs helplessly, frustration visible in his features, "or something. I'd hoped we'd find some answers. Instead, it's just more questions." "That's me," I almost blurt out. "A mystery wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in an old field jacket." Alita steps over to him and just gently places a hand on his arm. "Let's keep going. Maybe Jason's truck will have some kind of clues." My mood takes a bit of a nosedive as I find myself sincerely doubting that. I just can't imagine a physician, even a cyber surgeon, finding anything out here that would shed any light on what's happened to me. Ito nods, flashing a fatherly smile at her, and we continue on. And I go along with them, once again feeling like a cyborg's accessory. Before long, we come around a gently curving bend and see the other end of the road. Sitting where I left it, about halfway over the south side of the boundary line, is my blue pickup truck. The back half sits on the road, and the front end is partly buried in the small group of flexible bamboo-like trees that I'd crashed into. What little chatter there was ceases as we approach it. There's an air about the group now, as if everyone's expecting to find another incredible discovery when they get close enough. Ito picks up his pace and begins walking more quickly. Quickly enough that Kiyomi and Alita have to hurry a bit to keep up. Ito reaches the tail end of the Mazda pickup first. He comes to a stop and the others slow their approach. Reaching out his hand, he makes as if to touch the Z in Mazda, but hesitates. Then he places his hand firmly on the painted metal surface and brushes away some of the accumulated dust. Pulling his hand back, he rubs his fingers together and inspects the findings. He looks almost disappointed. Well, here we are, Alita announces quietly. She turns her head to ask over her shoulder, "You want to get down for a while?" With almost no hesitation, I answer, "Oh, yes, please." I take my arm from around her neck and point at the passenger side rear wheel. "Set me down there if you would." She makes her way over to the indicated spot and, after a quick inspection to make sure I'm not going to sit in anything painful, gently sets me down. Lowering my pack to the ground, she gets down on one knee and undoes the zipper, then places it within easy reach. "I'm going to go help the others look around, okay?" Ito and Kiyomi have already started poking around, and I can hear what I think is Kiyomi climbing into the bed of the truck. Closing my eyes, I nod. "Sure thing." I sit there, leaning against the tire of my old truck, and am struck by an incredible wave of homesickness. In a strange way, I feel more relaxed and at ease than I ever have since I ended up here. I'm overcome with a sudden fit of laughter. Kiyomi seems a little unnerved by this. From above me, I hear her ask, "Is he okay?" My response is to laugh just a little louder. I stop when it feels like it's about to turn into sobs. I release a quiet sigh and just sit, feeling the sun on my face and smelling the sense of home mingled with those of the jungle less than a meter from me. The thought crosses my mind that maybe I should try to get them to leave me here among the evergreens. Sort of a let me die on home soil sort of thing. I feel a gentle touch on my right shoulder and open my eyes to see Alita, still kneeling next to me, one hand on my shoulder. I'm a little surprised to find that I have no real reaction to her touch. Behind her stands Ito. Both of them are wearing faintly worried expressions. "Was that a good laugh or one we should be concerned about?" Alita asks me, taking her hand away. I can't help but smile as I look into those brilliant large brown eyes. "I was just thinking, is it strange that coming back here after everything that's happened feels like I'm coming home?" "No," Alita says, that same sadness that I've seen before shadowing her eyes. "I don't think that's strange." Ito concurs. "I wouldn't say so, considering the circumstances." His countenance remains a bit more cheerful. "Maybe a little weird," Kiyomi quips from above me where she's leaning over the side of the truck bed. Ito looks at the young woman like she just farted at a formal dinner. Alita shoots her friend a look of muted irritation as if to say, "Did you really have to say that?" Kiyomi quickly adds, "But like Dr. Ito was saying, this is a weird situation." Chuckling, I glance up at her, then nod. "Yeah, you can say that again." I find myself getting to like Kiyomi a bit more. My smile fades as a more sober frame of mind comes over me and I look out at the road stretching off into the forest. There were a couple of times over the last year that I'd managed to get a good day's worth of free time, for one reason or another. Not often, but a couple of times. The other farmhands would usually go off to spend their free time in Iron City, try to have some kind of fun. I narrow my eyes and focus on the point where the road disappears as it curves, becoming hidden by the trees. You know what I did? I came out here. I used to imagine that if I could somehow get this thing fixed, that maybe I could drive it back down the road the way I came, that maybe I could somehow reverse what happened if I went in the other direction. Everyone is silent, as if waiting for me to continue. Without taking my eyes off that distant point, I say in a voice drained of emotion, "You came out here to look for clues. I doubt you'll find anything useful. Sorry if you wasted your time." I feel old and exhausted. In my peripheral vision, Alita looks like she's about to say something, but Ito stops her with a hand on her shoulder. We should get to work, he says quietly. With a nod, Alita stands up and the two of them go off to look over the truck. As they do that, I close my eyes and lean my head against my truck. For once, my mind is just empty. No rushing thoughts, no conflicting emotions fighting in my head. I'm just here. I sit like that for a while as I listen to the others go over the truck and the ground around it. Eventually, they try to get into the truck and find it locked up. Jason, Ito calls out from the driver's side. You have the keys on you? Hold on, I call back. After fishing around in my pocket, my eyes snap open and the empty feeling leaves me. Shit, I mutter loudly, louder still. I forgot them back at the clinic. Fucking moron, I think to myself, condemning my stupidity. Should I just break it open? I hear Alita ask. Thinking she was asking Alita, I don't immediately answer, as I'm still mentally berating myself. She calls out, Jason? Despite the fact that the truck is of no use to me at all, I feel a pained hesitation at the thought of giving permission for it to be damaged. However, I call back, you're going to have to. I'm unable to keep some of that pain out of my voice. There's a momentary silence, then a quick crunching sound and another sound like a steel bar snapping. Then the quiet groan of the driver's side door opening. Something metallic clinks softly onto the jungle ground, probably a piece of the door's workings. They spend a good deal of time going over everything. After getting to the latch inside, Ito has the hood propped up and gets to looking the engine over. Once Alita clears out the little bamboo-like trees that the front end had plowed into. The next hour or so is spent explaining the various parts of the engine to Ito due to his unfamiliarity with such primitive technology. Once things get a little quiet, my head swims with a strange, disconnected feeling when I happen to look down and to my left. There's the dividing line and the very end of the road. On this side, my side, is the only world I grew up in. On the other side is this new, dangerous, badly scarred world. Looking up towards the front of the truck, I can just make out movement as Ito searches around the engine and the front end. Leaning over the side with her head under the hood, attempting to assist Ito, is Kiyomi. Kiyomi is wondering what they're looking for on the engine. Ito tells her, anything useful. Kiyomi complains rather sarcastically at the vagueness of that statement. I can hear Alita going through the cab. It seems somehow appropriate. All three of them are on the jungle side of the barrier line, in their world, leaving me alone here on the forest side, broken and abandoned. I know that's not true, but I can't seem to stop it from feeling true. On impulse, I call out dispassionately, Hey, Ito, what would you say if I asked you to leave me here? Everyone stops what they're doing. Kiyomi pulls her head out from under the hood and looks at me with a vaguely shocked expression. The passenger door swings open and Alita sticks her head out, a look on her face like she can't believe she heard that. Remaining where he is under the hood, Ito calls back in a casual voice. I'd say you weren't thinking straight. Probably required some serious looking after and drag you back to the clinic. Offhandedly, he adds, by force if necessary. Why do you ask? Alita punctuates his answer by narrowing her eyes at me, her expression changing to something of a don't you dare sort of look. It's a surprisingly intimidating look. Not entirely sure why. I smile and chuckle quietly at both their responses. Just curious, I call back to him. Hell, I'm not even sure why I asked him something like that in the first place, but the response from both Ito and Alita is somehow reassuring. Kiyomi and Ito go back to what they were doing. Before Alita can disappear back into the cab, I call out to her, Hey, keep that door open. Her expression immediately softens and she nods. Twisting myself over into my right side, I begin crawling over towards the open door. As I approach, she quickly and gracefully pulls herself out of the cab and waits patiently as I make my way over. Once I'm at the door, I use the side of the truck to steady myself as I get onto the ends of my residual legs and start testing out various handholds, trying to see how I can pull myself up into the passenger seat. Alita, seeming to read my intent, stands by and watches. A half-dozen attempts end with me smacking the back of my head against the door on the way down and landing on my back, knocking the wind out of myself. I let out a sigh and admit defeat. It is a grudging admission. Staring up at the sky, I mentioned in a conversational tone, "Yeah, looks like I'm going to need some help." With merely the quirk of an eyebrow, Alita reaches down, picks me up, and places me squarely on the passenger seat. "Thank you," I say to her with a certain stiff formality and an equally stiff nod. "You're welcome," she responds with the same stiff formality, though there's the hint of a smirk. The two of us go over the possessions I'd kept in my truck. A toolbox, official papers of various sorts, roadside emergency kit and first aid kit. When we come across my little wallet of music CDs, Kiyomi joins us and peeks over Alita's shoulder. "What sort of music is it?" Kiyomi asks, her expression intensely curious. Fiddling with the zipper in an attempt to open it, I eventually get around to pinching it between my side and my residual arm, pinning it so I can work the zipper with my left hand. It just takes a little longer than I'm used to. "A pretty eclectic collection," I say in response as I slowly flip through the single CD pockets. Listening to all kinds of stuff. I listen to all kinds of stuff depending on the day, my mood, whatever. Alita appears at the labels as I flip through them, looking almost transfixed. "What kinds are there?" Shrugging at her, I continue slowly flip through the plastic sleeves. "Heavy metal, various types of rock music, classical." I shrug again. "A lot of various stuff that I've collected over the years. Not that I can listen to any of it now." I cast a dispirited glance at the stereo in the dashboard. With the battery dead and the electrical grid in Iron City inaccessible to anything that came through the anomaly with me, it seems unlikely that I'd ever get it to work. I perk up a bit as a thought hits me. "Hey, Kiyomi." She looks up from peeking over Alita's shoulder. "Yes?" With significantly more effort than I'd have liked, I twist around and reach behind me into the little passenger space in the extended cab, grabbing the canvas bag with my roadside emergency kit in it and wrestle it up to set it on my lap. "Don't know how much of this you can use, but it's yours if you want it." Kiyomi's face lights up as I hand her the impromptu gift. "Thanks," she says enthusiastically, opening the bag. She peeks in. "It all looks so new." "Well, I never had any use for any of it, so it stayed in pretty good shape. I never had to use any of it, so it stayed in pretty good shape." With more excitement than I had have thought the gift warranted, she digs through the bag and begins pulling out items, asking about each one. I give her a quick rundown on each thing she pulls out, and as it turns out, she seems to think she can make use of quite a bit of it. Alita watches the interplay with a semi-amused expression, looking rather pleased at my gesture to her friend. My good mood falls a few notches when I remember something. "Well, shit," I mutter loudly. When the two women look at me questioningly, I tell them, "I don't think any of the electrical stuff like the emergency lights and that little air pump are going to do you any good." Kiyomi looks a little less excited at that. "Oh, right. Because it's electrical," and her expression becomes only a little less excited. With a quick shrug, she reasons, "Well, the flares and other stuff I can still do something with. Plus, free bag. And it's a nice canvas one, too." Can't help but smile at her optimism. Suddenly, Ito appears at the driver's side window. "Jason, I'd like to take some of your truck's engine and electrical components back with us. I'd like to run some experiments on them." Find something to get his cyberware working?" Alita asks hopefully. Ito turns his hands up in an "I'm not sure" gesture. "I don't want to say, but I'd like to study some of the truck's electrical system. It may tell us something." I shrug at him ambiguously. "Take whatever you want. Hell, consider the whole thing yours. If you can get any use out of it, we could call it a partial repayment for what you've done." Ito nods agreeably, if a bit absently, then comes over to cast about inside the cab. Locating my old toolbox, he grabs it up and asks Alita, "Could you give me a hand?" Alita nods to him, then turns back to me with a hopeful look. "Maybe this could be it." Feeling quite a bit less than hopeful, I reply evenly, "We'll see." "Come on, there's got to be an explanation for what's happening to you," Kiyomi exhorts. And if there's an explanation, Ito can find an answer. I merely shrug non-committally. Ito and Alita disappear under the front end out of my view. For the next little while, Kiyomi and I hear the sounds of tools in use from the underside of the engine as well as muffled speech. Seeing as neither of us is of much help with whatever Ito's doing, we sit and talk, mostly about the music of my time, in which Kiyomi shows a surprising interest. While in the middle of discussing Alice Cooper, Disturbed, and Beethoven, we hear Ito call out an alarm. "Wait, careful there," he exclaims. Immediately after that, there's a metallic popping sound, and Ito utters an alarmed curse. A sound of rushed movement, and Alita appears at the left front of the truck, helping an oil-covered Ito to his feet. Dark engine oil has covered his face, chest, and one shoulder, little rivulets of it running down the right sleeve in front of his jacket. I immediately push my CD collection off my lap and onto the floor as I scramble to get into the back passenger space. Landing awkwardly on the floor between the front and rear seats, I quickly search about and find an old roll of disposable blue shop towels that I'd kept on hand, wedged under the driver's seat. Swiftly grabbing up the roll, I squirm over onto my back and realize there's no way I can quickly get myself back upright without a bit of work. "Kiyomi," I call out. When she pops her head over the back of the seat I was in, I shove the roll of towels at her. "Give them this, quick." Kiyomi wastes no time in taking them, then stands up in the doorway and calls out to Alita to catch, before throwing the shop towels over the top of the truck to her cyborg friend, who easily catches the roll. The sound of Alita apologizing to her adopted father reaches me, as does Ito's reassurances to her that he's all right. I struggle to get myself upright in the back seat, while everyone attends to Ito's mishap. Finally getting into a position where I can look past the front seats, I can see that Ito has cleaned his face off and doesn't appear to have gotten any in his eyes, much to my relief. Having never gotten engine oil in my own eyes, I'm not sure if water would sufficiently clean it out before the chemicals in it cause any damage. Kiyomi, noticing my brief struggle, ducks her head into the cab. "Oh, Jason, you okay?" I wave her off. "Yeah, I'm good." Calling out more loudly towards Ito and Alita, I ask, "What the hell happened? Did you puncture the oil pan?" Not something that should have been easy to do, but with Alita's strength. Pausing in her assisting of Ito, Alita turns to me and gestures with her left hand. "I was bracing myself to push that broken axle out of the way, and two of my fingers poked a hole in something." Glancing over at Kiyomi, I comment to her, "Yeah, that'd likely be the oil pan. It's made of aluminum, lightweight, and not quite as strong as steel." After Ito is cleaned up, as much as possible anyway, he gives a final reassurance to his daughter that he's unharmed and finishes up with his work. In a little over an hour, he and Alita have removed the starter. In a little over an hour, he and Alita have removed the starter, alternator, battery, and some lengths of cable and wiring, as well as some smaller components of the electrical system. While the two of them clean up, Kiyomi and I continue conversing. As we do, I'm amazed to realize that my depression seems to have lifted for now. Not sure if it's due to these more familiar surroundings, this being out under the sun and away from the city, but whatever the case, I'm glad to be free of that shadow for now. End of chapter. There you go.
Oh, that's nice. I wonder what, it's hard to put into words, but could you imagine if you were there and living in that century, coming across a 500-year-old car?
Yeah. You mean a 500-year-old car that looks like it's less than a year old?
Yes. Yeah, that would be kind of a interesting response, I think.
Yep. Not to mention an entire forest of trees that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah,
And a
because that's
stretch of road that doesn't seem to lead from anywhere or go anywhere.
And a speed sign that gets ignored just as much in the future as it did in the past.
Mm-hmm. Man. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, not exactly the most exciting stuff, but you know.
No, it's kind of neat. You saw one of the comments was great storytelling by AKA. He enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad some people are enjoying it.
Well, Finn has to go to sleep, I guess.
Oh,
It's late in Europe.
yeah. Well, if you're still there, good night, Finn.
So it looks like Badman says hopefully the alternator has permanent magnets and not field coils.
I cannot remember exactly what I found. I actually looked up alternators for Mazda pickup trucks of the year I had in mind.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what it was I found. I had kept it in mind for a while, but it ended up not necessarily feeding too much into the story as far as, you know, an important detail, but it's something I could look up again if I had to.
Yeah, Finn likes it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Finn.
Yeah.
So I take it field coils require some charge in the battery, or you're not going to be doing anything.
Honestly, I'm not certain. I don't remember much about what I learned about alternators. It has been a very long time since I've had to deal with them.
Well, field from my knowledge of electromagnetism, you need an electric current to create the magnetic pole in a field coil. So if you have no electricity, like if your battery's completely flat, you can't even get the alternator to charge it.
Well, my experience has always been that if your battery is dead, you're not really getting anything out of it anyway. So,
yeah.
Well, yes, you can't. If your battery's dead, you can't start the car because the spark plugs won't work.
Yeah.
But if you could get a jump, then I guess you've got power. So you get field coils.
Well, the alternator provides a amount of current for that.
But an old style alternator that has permanent magnets will charge the moment it's spun. It doesn't require a charge to get the magnets to work, the magnetic field to work.
I'm glad you like that detail, Alita, or AKA, because, yeah, those are some of the little things I try to put in, just sort of like try to portray the surrealness of what Jason was experiencing with, you know, his situation.
Well, Koyomi actually said that once they got there, she said, wow, she was excited at first like it was an adventure, but she said, this is freaking me out. It's
yeah,
surreal. So, yeah,
seeing the an alien forest and a whole realization that shit's going on that is really, they don't really understand what's happening, was a little strange to her, and the others as well. So yeah, the surrealness was going a little bit both ways there.
Quick, call Mulder and Scully.
Yeah, it was also that little detail was also to sort of try and highlight a little bit of just how strange, even though he likes the people that he's with and is starting to see them as, you know, people he can count on and they have helped him a lot, how strange they still are to him.
You know, it strikes me, though, that, I mean, granted, Alita, you know, being a total replacement cyborg, I mean, now this is me talking. If I met her like that, it would register that she's some kind of advanced, you know, kind of mostly machine, you know, but I think my brain could accept it. You know, I mean, I don't think it would be surreal to me. I mean, I think it would be extremely, it would impress me quite a bit. And I think it would, you know, I mean, I would be in awe of it, but I don't think it would be something that I would treat as like beyond reality or surreal, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Because I know we've seen so much science fiction, you know, where we've seen this, and then let's say for some reason, you know, we get put in suspended animation, wake up 500 years later, and there are really people like Alita walking around. Since we've seen so much of it in science fiction, I wonder if, you know, if we
It
would
might
just
not
say,
be too much of a
oh, okay,
leap to sort of
Yeah.
accept it.
yeah,
Yeah, possibly.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's the thing. If Jason had met Alita under other circumstances, he might have just written off her full cyborg body as just some kind of elaborate costume.
Could be. Well, of course, he did see her on the TV,
Yeah.
ripping. So that kind
Part
of
of
made
his
an impression
feelings
on
were the circumstances under which he, saw her. I mean, the rather unfriendly nature of Iron City, plus the violence that she was rather eagerly dishing out on the motorball track. To be fair, though, everybody on the motorball track is rather eagerly dishing out violence to everybody else. So it's not like she was the only one.
Yeah,
But yeah, if he met her under different circumstances, he probably would have had a very different reaction to her.
yeah,
Much
I
less
think
negative.
so. Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the two, and then the next chapter will be the end of their time in the circle of trees.
And that's where we come
And-
up with another one of my little favorite
Yeah,
situations.
where she sees Jason being sorry for himself and knocks him out of it.
Yeah, that's right.
He deserved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see,
Unfortunately- Oh, I was
At
going to
this
say,
point-
unfortunately, after that,
Yeah.
in the next chapters afterwards, I kind of realized that even though getting Jason through the gate went rather easily and smoothly, it was a bit of a considering you're risking getting killed on on site if they catch you doing something like that. Oh yeah, from iRobot.
yeah.
It was kind of decided, I think maybe off screen, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the story, that it was too much of a risk to keep smuggling Jason through the gate. So Jason ends up basically being trapped inside Iron City after that.
Yeah. Yeah, because eventually they may actually do a thorough search, right? I mean, not just
Mhm.
relying on the sensors. And then
Well, that's the thing. As you heard in the two guards that were talking, I mean, just to screw with the people that they were had some kind of authority over, they were thinking, oh, okay,
Yeah.
of the of basically just pulling all their stuff out, rummaging through their crap, and just to mess with people. Which unfortunately is not the kind of things I've seen cops in the real world do. But if the guards decide to do something like that and go through with it, well, they could easily find Jason.
Yeah. Well, I think with Alita in the car with them, though, they are a little reticent to, try to fuck around with them because they realize.
Well, that pair of guards was, yes.
Yeah.
Well, more specifically, that one guard was, and he convinced his friend not to bother.
Yeah.
But you get another set of gate guards, and they might not be so dissuaded.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I've been enjoying this story. Now I'm past chapter 11 and 12, but I'm now into chapter 25. I started reading that this morning, and got about a third of the way through it, and had to get off on something else. But
yeah. So you're up where Jason's finally got his limbs working, and he's up and out and about.
Yes. Yeah, he's up and not to spoil too much, but he takes on a gang of bikers.
I'm not sure I'd say he takes them on so much as he gets he
protects
in the path of them.
Yeah, well, he's protecting some people too, I think. So
yeah.
That's that. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, not to spoil too much, so we'll save that for another day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like the fight in the basement.
Oh yeah,
which is before that.
Chapter 20, yeah.
Yeah, AKA's on chapter 20. Okay, yeah, okay, AKA. I'll shut up.
Yeah, that one, by the way, was where I had originally planned on ending the story. because, well, that was going to be the end of Jason.
Oh.
But you just can't do it, huh, Lee?
Yeah. Well, it was mainly my girlfriend. She convinced me that it's like, don't you dare end it like that. I was like, well, okay.
You got
I'll
told.
continue the story. Because I was thinking, it's like, well, I've done 20 chapters. Jason wasn't supposed to be, a continuing thing, so I'll just have, him.
Yes. Oh, I like this right here.
Yeah, I was just looking at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see by this point here, I can see a kind of a friendship starting to evolve between Alita and Jason. Though they're starting to relate to each other more, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, I had kind of planned on the relationship eventually becoming more akin to siblings. Like he's an older brother and she's a younger sister, sort of type thing.
Yeah, younger sister that can kick his ass.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but I do see that that's starting to it's starting to become visible at this point.
I like the way she's all, I'm over 300 years old, and he's like, try 600, bitch.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, so you're half my age.
Yeah, you're a kid. You're a kid. Yeah. Well, I guess she figures now that, well, I guess with Nova being alive, I guess he's older than Alita, I guess. But yeah, I guess she's got that realization. I'm no longer the oldest person in Iron City. So.
Oh, excuse me. Pardon, man.
The mute button exists reasonably.
Yes, I know. Sorry. It caught me off guard, so I didn't get the chance to hit it.
That's all right.
Oh, dear.
There's been a lot worse happen on this stream. So anyway, any more thoughts there, Maxie?
It's getting good.
Yes, it is getting really good.
I just like them finally to stop giving him a hard time. It's like, yeah, you must be half insane. What you're saying isn't possible.
He's either deluded or he's some kind of holdover from the old war that suffered some sort of malfunction, or he's just, I don't know. Now they're out there and they're like, oh, okay, well, there's proof here. Yeah.
Yep. Shut up. Just shut up. Shut up.
AKA's comment about good thing Alita not being a mechanic. Yeah. I'm not sure what you're referring to about her.
Because she puts her fingers through oil pans and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's only because she underestimated how soft the metal was that she was dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, if she actually knew what she was, what the workings and everything was, she probably would have known to be a little bit more careful about what she was, about where she was putting pressure on.
Yeah, a lot of cars wouldn't survive, would they?
I was listening to a story last night about this alien doctor who was trying to improve humanity because this alien saw humanity as a weak race that was going to get schmished as it expanded out into the universe and met up with all the other tough aliens that were out there and the harsh environments. And the big joke in the story was that coffee cups were the innocent victims of enhanced humanity because they kept breaking them because they didn't know their own strength anymore. It's like, and that's like the 7th coffee cup you've broken this week, and he's like, I'm sorry. Well, why don't you just make them out of titanium? Problem solved.
Yeah.
Stop making
them out of tougher stuff.
That's right. Exactly. Simple.
Something I was thinking about touching on, but I never got around to it, was transhuman dread. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It actually comes from Warhammer 40K, one of the novelizations they had. touched on something called that the I think a ship's officer, as he was watching the Astartes, the Space Marines, the heavily augmented humans in power armor, watched them working on a battlefield. It was something that he touched on. It was apparently it's basically the feeling of dread a normal human feels when they see something that looks nominally human-shaped and like a human, but is moving much faster and doing things that no normal human should even be remotely capable of. Basically, like almost a sort of uncanny valley effect.
Yeah.
Now, I was thinking about having...
your brain can't make sense of what it's seeing. Because
it's like it sees something that looks like a human, but it sees that human doing things that are very inhuman.
Yes. It'd be like it'd be like soup dread, like you fear of superheroes, because they're basically the same deal.
Well, it'd be a little bit like seeing a metahuman or say a superhero that has extraordinary powers.
Yeah.
But space marines are fuck off scary. It's just no two ways about it.
Quite a few things in Warhammer. Well, Warhammer 40k in general seems to be composed of fuck off scary stuff.
True. Tyranids, warp spawn,
Necrons,
yeah, Necron.
Well, I think they call it dread mainly because most of the things that you see that elicit the feeling are engaged in acts of superhuman destruction and death, doing things that are basically that if that action were directed at you would result in your immediate death.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole thing of the Mechanicus Titan legions, they're designed to scare the shit out of everybody.
Oh yeah, with
the war horns and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Man and AKA are on a rare form today, I think. All right, Maxie, any other thoughts?
Just let me know when the next one is.
You betcha.
I'll be here.
Yeah, we do it maybe 3 weeks from now or something like that.
Yeah, you got to give his voice a chance to recover.
Yeah, we got to give his voice. Yeah, that's right. So, Lee, any last thoughts about chapters 11 and 12?
Well, other than it's the fact that the other characters in the story are finally coming face to face with the fact that they've got an unusual individual in some fashion or other in their midst. Well, they're finally starting to realize that, okay, well, he really is from the past.
Yeah, they've realized he's not crazy, I guess, as Koyomi said. Yeah.
See? Told ya.
Well, Jason's not going to be telling...
AKA, it's okay for you to do that, AKA I was being facetious. You go ahead and spam the hell out of us.
Yeah, Jason's not going to do the I told you so. He's just going to be glad that, well, finally, they don't think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Because with everything going on, he was starting to wonder if he actually came from the past. Then seeing it again, it's like, yes, I really was from the distant past. And all this stuff really did happen, and I'm not crazy.
That's right.
When you're clinically depressed and your brain is telling you negative things about yourself, it often tries to rewrite your memories.
Yes, it does.
The interesting thing about how memory works is you don't actually remember the event that you're remembering. You remember the last time you remembered the event. And my father was a prime example of this. He would mull over things so much that his memories of the event would change. And you'd like I'd have arguments with my father saying, this is what happened. He'd go, no, this is what happened. I go, now everybody else who was there agree with me. No, this is how it happened. I'm like, no, you've just convinced yourself that it happened differently because you've thought about it so many times, you've changed your own memory.
Yeah, and maybe your opinion of it has changed too. Something like that.
But yeah,
All right.
it does happen. It's actually a function of the way the brain works, which doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, anyway, I don't have any last words, and we've been going for nearly 3 hours, so maybe we may as well move on. We will be doing this again, folks. You know, probably 3 weeks or so if we get Lee's voice back up to good shape, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like one of the problems is I was rushing through it a bit much, stumbling over things that I probably shouldn't have been. Definitely
you
feel like one of my
you
better,
want to hear somebody stumbling over their own writing? You just go listen to the recording of my first couple of chapters that I did. Oh boy,
Yeah.
Captain Stumble.
Yeah. And that's a great idea too, Maxie. I mean, I know you're always looking for topics on Radio Chaos, so maybe that's a thing. You know, you just throw that one in every now and then to give yourself a break. You know.
Oh yeah, and I know what you're angling at, Creaky. You're going to get me to read up to where I'm up to and say, now you have to write some more.
Speaking of writing, by the way, there was something I did want to just mention real quick.
Okay.
I hadn't been on his site for a while, and there is a science fiction military sci-fi adventure writer named David Drake that I used to read a lot of. In fact, his Hammers Slammers series was one that I read a great deal of. And actually, I used some of his writing style as sort of inspiration for my own a little bit.
Okay.
David Drake was I found out that he passed away a couple years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a Vietnam veteran who got into writing as a means of coping with his PTSD from his time in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And if you feel up to it, anybody out there, maybe check out some of his works, because he, in his later years, he also got into writing fantasy adventure, stuff like that.
Nice.
So he's got quite a listing of works that you might be interested in checking out.
What was his name
partial again? David Drake.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm partial to his Hammer Slammers series because it deals with plasma weapons and hover tanks and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a note of it. So.
Okay.
Anyway, did we miss anything, you guys? Well, you can see from that center panel right there that Alita loves her Uncle Creek, and that's because he wants a sequel, just like she does, and like Maxie does, and like Lee does, and Jealous does, and everybody else in the Alita army does. So anyway,
right.
we want that sequel for our girl, that's for sure, and our queen. Yeah, our queen needs she needs to get into it too, you know, because it'd be more money for her for one thing, and she loves playing Alita, so that'd be kind of cool, you know. Yep. What do you got here, Maxie? Oh, I was going to announce that.
You can announce it. That's fine. But this is the thumbnail now. So I did it while I was listening to Lee.
Well, cool. That means I don't have to wait until tomorrow morning to add it to my presentation. Then.
Nope, you don't have to wait. So tomorrow on Radio Chaos, we have episode 278, Alita in Love. Who might partner up with Alita if there were no Hugo or Figure 4? Now, I know that there's a few young bucks in the Alita army that will be throwing their hands in the air right now. I'm actually referring to characters in either the movie or the manga, which is more where I'm aiming for, rather than just people throwing their hands up going, me. So, yeah. So have a think about it if you're going to join us tomorrow. Lee, you're very welcome to join us. I'm sure you've got some ideas yourself. But if you can spare the time and your voice is up to it.
Yep.
And we'll be talking now. I'm sure Creaky will have a slideshow ready with lots of ideas, because that's just what he's like. He's not saying yes or no. He's getting very quiet.
Well, I've already got an idea. I already know who I'm going to put forth.
Oh, who you're going to back? Right, okay.
Yeah, we're going to hold that until tomorrow.
This is the and this artwork, I should say, was a black and white artwork, which I use an AI to colorize because I'm a bastard like that. So I think it actually made it a lot cuter with the coloration.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
And obviously the octopus is in love with her octolips. And she's a little bit like, whoa.
Yeah, love the octopus, yes.
I'm not sure who did that artwork because they didn't sign it. But
oh, Maxie, you know, your birthday is on the same day they dropped the bomb on Nagasaki.
Seriously? It
Yeah,
was the 10th of August?
I guess. I don't know. That's we'll have to.
I think
search
AK
that.
might be referring to something today, because I don't think tomorrow is.
Okay.
Well, for you guys, it's the 8th currently, and for me, it's the 9th. But my birthday's on the 10th, so.
Well, AKA, I'll tell you this: Bad Man would know more about this, but I like to watch the Canadian Football League, and my favorite team is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But so anyway.
Now, if Alita the Killing Angel is talking about AFL, which is the Australian Football League, I'm most definitely a Richmond Tigers supporter. So no, not the Bombers, not Essendon. If that's what he's referring to.
Ah, okay. Well, I think Bad Man knows who the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are, so he's a Canadian. So anyway, all right, Maxie, thanks a lot.
I didn't choose those colors, aka the AI did.
Well, he still likes them. Cool.
Oh, okay. It's the 9th of August is the anniversary for the bombings.
All right.
Oh, holy shit! That's the same day I married my first wife. Holy! Oh my god!
And that marriage blew up, didn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it blew up big time. Oh gosh! All right. Yep. So anyway,
that's what's happening tomorrow.
Yeah, AKA Oh No Creek. Yes. So anyway, I guess we didn't miss anything. So here's our queen, of course, and you know, she's #1 in the Creeks book in terms of being an actor, because she is freaking magnificent, man. I mean, and I'm not going to wax lyrical, Maxie, but she was awesome. She was awesome in that play. So you know, that she did. So it was a lot of fun for Charlie.
Okay, cuddle magnet.
Well, maybe, but you know, but she's she was really nice to Charlie and I, and we you know, of course, the Elite Army, we love Rosie, you know, because she's great. You know, we were certainly fortunate to have her play Alita. You know, I mean, she knocked it out of the park. I also want to give shout outs to El Lamont and Jesse Fisher. You know, they brought Screwhead to life, and of course, what I want to see, what the Creek wants, is I want to see Alita and Screwhead team up. You know, take on Joshigan, and as like El said, you know, that El's kind of pissed off about the whole business, what happened, you know, with Alita and all that stuff, and she now wants to be Alita's badass buddy, you know, and that'd be cool. And of course, Jessie is she's a really great stunt person. I mean, she's super duper, you know, and of course El had high praise for her. So we want all three of these accomplished professionals to be in the sequel. That's for sure, you know. If you're interested, you know, you can join us on these for the Stammtisch after party. I'll put a link in the chat there, and you can just click on that. You can come on now if you want. You know, I mean, that's okay, because we're not going to be on much longer anyway. But if you want to come on now, you can. But click on that. We'll bring you in, and you can chat with Lee and Maxie and I, and you know, we'll hang around for a while just to see who shows up. And then if nobody shows up in a few minutes, we'll probably, you know, bring it down. But although Lee and Maxie like to talk about author stuff, So you might catch us, a little later on too, because they're both authors. So anyway, but join us for the Stammtisch after party. We have a lot of fun talking about that stuff about Alita. We don't stream this, so you don't have to worry about, people on the internet seeing you and, hearing your voice. And if you're nervous about that kind of thing, all it is us. It's kind of like either a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call, or a GoToMeeting, or whatever you use, if you use any of those apps. And nobody else will see you except us here on the panel and you. So, if you want to come and chat with us, we'd love to have you. And we are the Alita Army. We are the most positive fandom on the internet, aren't we, Maxie? And
That's right, yeah.
Yep, and we support Alita and Rosa passionately and positively. Certainly, she's our girl, and Rosa is our queen. So, I mean, we're behind them 100%. And, we are the Elite Army. We're here to stay. And Disney, we are not going away. We are always going to be here, and you will give us that sequel eventually. Why is this image here? Well, that image is there because I like it. And to paraphrase Gruwishka, I'm only here for our girl and the Alita Army and our queen. And of course, all of us are only here for our girl, our queen, and the Alita Army. So that really only leaves one thing left to do, and that would be on my count of 3, guys. 1, 2, 3.
Build those sequels,
baby. So anyway, we will catch you tomorrow on Radio Chaos for Maxie's birthday, and next week on the Alita Livestream. Bye.
Take care, guys.
What's up, Alita Army? This is Hot Toys Alita, and I hope you enjoyed this week's Alita Livestream. Please join my Uncle Creek, Angelus, and our other guests for next week's show. Remember, I do not stand by in the presence of evil, and film those sequels, baby. See you next time.